Chapter 522. Becoming a noble house. All right, Grandpa, I'll go rest now. Xiaolong knew that he had achieved his goal with what he had said today. It seemed like he was speaking from the bottom of his heart, but he was doing it on purpose. If House Kong really became a noble house, then Kong Ming Ming would definitely try to compete with him for the position of the head of the house. Xiaolong had made his stance clear to Dr. Kong, letting him know that he wouldn't mistreat Kong Ming Ming if he became the head of the house. Plus, Kong Ming Ming wasn't completely useless. With this, Dr. Kong would inevitably pass the position to Xiaolong, because Kong Ming Ming had already been defined by the house and would be raised to be a spoiled brat. He would lose the right to compete for the position of head of the house. How could a spoiled brat become the head of the house? Xiaolong turned around and walked out of Dr. Kang's room. He laughed coldly and walked back to his own room. Noble house wasn't Xiaolong's ultimate goal anymore. His goal was to become a martial arts noble house. That was the only way he could stand firm and not be eliminated. The next morning, Dr. Kong rushed to the auction house with Xiaolong. The auction house wasn't open during the day, but they should be able to contact House Yu here. Qintian received a call from Xiaolong early in the morning. He thought that it was Xiaolong asking him for money, and he was shocked. He looked at the number on his phone, hesitating whether he should answer or not. His grandpa had just woken up in the middle of the night. Although Gong Gao was a martial arts practitioner and fainted from anger, Qintian didn't dare to talk about money again. He was afraid that his grandpa would faint again, so he could only put this matter aside for now. When he saw the call from Xiaolong, he didn't know whether he should answer or not. He was a person who cared about his reputation, especially when this was a great opportunity to show off. How could he back down? But to be honest, he didn't dare to answer. What if Xiaolong really wanted the money? If he said that he couldn't return the money now, wouldn't he lose face? Don't even talk about being pretentious. People would laugh their heads off. But that was 15 million. Anyone would feel the pinch if they lost that much money, especially since Xiaolong had borrowed so much from him in private. There was no guarantee that he wouldn't get scolded by Dr. Kong when he got back. Qintian gritted his teeth and picked up the phone. He was a loyal man, and he couldn't let people look down on him. Even if he was beaten until his face was swollen, he still had to pretend to be fat. Hello? Brother Xiaolong? I was just thinking about calling you. Qintian was afraid that Xiaolong would mention the money, so he decided to strike first. Let me tell you, I'll pay you back for yesterday's meal when we get back. I don't have my bank card with me here. Oh, that money? Don't worry. Xiaolong paused, figuring out what Qintian was thinking. He was a person who was good at observing and analyzing others, but on the surface, he appeared to be very obedient, making people feel that he was very harmless. We're brothers, so how can you cheat me? I didn't even think about it. Let's talk about it when we get back. One had to admit that Xiaolong had a way with words. Not only did he buy Qintian's favor, but he also didn't say that he didn't want the money. Instead, he pointed out that Qintian had to return the money. You're the boss, and you're so powerful. You won't lack money from a lackey like me. But it was enough to give Qintian face. Yeah, I knew you wouldn't doubt my character, my little brother. What a straightforward person. Brother, you're a true friend of mine. As expected, Qintian was moved to tears and fell into the trap. He felt that Xiaolong was really a loyal person, and he had to return the money even if he had to sell everything he had. He couldn't let a brother like this down. Of course, I see bro Qintian as my boss. Xiaolong said, Boss, you have to protect me. Of course. Qintian said straightforwardly. Right, bro Qintian. Grandpa and I were invited to House Yu's auction today to discuss about House Kong becoming a noble house. Although it's basically a done deal, we still feel a little guilty. Xiaolong said, Bro Qintian, can you come with me to boost my courage? With you, the heir of House Wu, we won't be afraid anymore. No problem. Qintian agreed immediately. He didn't have to do anything himself. He just needed to boost his courage. Of course he would accept, and he could even show off in front of his lackeys. Why not? All right, Boss Qintian, I'll be waiting for you at the auction. Xiaolong's way of addressing Qintian had changed to Boss Qintian, and this made Qintian very happy. Dr. Kong listened to the conversation between Xiaolong and Qintian. This grandson was really brave and smart, and his words were flawless. Not only did he make Chintian grateful, but he also pointed out that the debt of 15 million must be returned. Xiaolong's words also made Dr. Kong look at him in a different light. This brat actually said that the Kong family's promotion to an aristocratic family was already a done deal. Was he simply lying with his eyes wide open? He hadn't even contacted House Yu yet, and they were still far away from the noble house. How could Xiaolong say something like that? But Dr. Kong knew Xiaolong's goal. If he directly said that he wanted to talk to House Yu about becoming a noble house, Chintian would probably be hesitant. After all, his appearance meant that House Wu was supporting House Kong. House Wu had a special position among the noble houses. Wu Gonggao was a mystic, and that was enough to make people respect him. So if Chintian supported House Kong becoming a noble house, then this matter would be in the bag. After all, House Yu was powerful, but they didn't need to offend House Wu. If House Kong really had the right, then they might as well go with the flow and let House Wu owe them a favor. This was a very clever move. In fact, this was something that Xiaolong had purposely done in front of Dr. Kong to make Dr. Kong feel at ease. In fact, he had achieved his goal. Miracle Dr. Kong looked at Xiaolong with satisfaction and nodded. Xiaolong, I was wondering who would take over House Kang's business, since you're developing in the academic world and not in the management field. I'm finally at ease now. Chapter 5:23. House Kang's Trump Cardone had to admit that Xiaolong's idea was a good one. Haitian didn't want to see House Kong when he heard that they wanted to see him. House Yu knew what House Kong was planning. House Kong had grown stronger over the years, and they even had a marriage alliance with Xiao family. House Yu was aware of this. House Kong couldn't wait to join the ranks of the noble houses. After all, the benefits of becoming a noble house wasn't as simple as fame. More importantly, the noble houses would always communicate with each other and share resources. They would give each other face, and there would be countless small salons and gatherings every year. House Kang's conditions were enough to become a small noble house, but this wasn't something that could be achieved easily. It involved the distribution of benefits and balance. Having one more noble house would cause more trouble. House Yu wanted to weaken the other noble houses, so how could they let someone else in? However, Haitian hesitated when he heard that House Kong and the third-generation heir of House Wu came together. This time, the Kong family must have come to discuss the matter of becoming an aristocratic family. But at this time, they brought the Wu family. What did this mean? Could it be that House Wu was on House Kang's side, supporting them to become a noble house? Second uncle, what do you think? Haitian was in a difficult position. He couldn't make the decision himself, so he went to ask someone in the family who could. Let them in. Let's see what they say. The middle-aged man listened to Haitian's explanation and nodded. House Kong must become a noble house. Even if we stop them, they'll try their best. Since they've gotten House Wu's help, we might as well see what they have up their sleeves. If they really have something that we're interested in, we might as well give House Kong and House Wu some face. But if they don't have anything good, even if we agree, the other noble houses might not. You have to know that this is a decision made by the 5 noble houses. House Wu alone can't make the decision. We don't need to care about the 4 small noble houses. Haitian paused. He was a peripheral member of House Yu, so he didn't have much contact with the core members. That was why he asked this question. It's not that we don't need to bother with them, but since House Yu has agreed, they won't object, the middle-aged man said faintly, but his words were filled with confidence. All right, I'll call them in now. What about you, uncle? You Haitian asked carefully. I won't show up. Don't agree or refuse. Let's see their conditions first. The middle-aged man said, if it's okay, I'll send you a message. Yes. Second uncle. Haitian nodded and left the inner room. He came to the living room and said to the subordinate who came to report, bring them in. After a while, Dr. Kong brought Xiaolong and Ching Tian to the guest room. Haitian stood up and welcomed them warmly. Dr. Kong, Master Wu, Master Kong, welcome. You're too kind, Mr. Yu. Although Dr. Kong was an elder, he didn't dare to neglect the people of House Yu. Haitian may only be a peripheral member of House Yu, but he still had an important position in the family. Dr. Kong, the auction will start at night. I wonder what brings you here at this time? Is there a new auction item that you want to sell to us? Haitian was an expert at acting dumb. If Dr. Kong didn't bring it up, he wouldn't bring it up. Huh, that's right. This time, we do want to add another auction item. Dr. Kong was an experienced man. He nodded. But this auction item is a pre-sale item. Pre-sale item? Haitian paused. He was just asking casually. He didn't expect Dr. Kong to really want to auction an item, and a pre-sale item at that. This made him curious. Could it be that Dr. Kong wasn't here to study the noble houses? Yes. After my grandson and I, Xiaolong, worked tirelessly and overcame many difficulties, we finally developed the upgraded product that we wanted to enter the auction. Skin Beautifying Golden Creation. Dr. Kong said, Skin Beautifying Golden Creation? Haitian repeated the name Dr. Kong said. The name was a little long and a little hard to pronounce, but that wasn't the point. The point was who could use this medicine. Seeing Haitian's confused expression, Dr. Kong smiled and explained, This medicine is as the name suggests. Skin Beautifying Golden Creation not only has the basic effect of golden creation, but it also has the effect of beautifying the skin. The magic of Jin Chuang medicine was that it could heal wounds quickly without leaving scars. This skin beautifying Jin Chuang medicine could repair some old scars and completely remove these old scars. Of course, this is only the main effect. There are many auxiliary effects, such as beautifying the skin, improving the skin tone, removing dull skin, shrinking pores, and so on. As the person in charge of the auction, Haitian naturally had a keen business sense. When he heard Dr. Kang's introduction, he knew that this medicine was definitely not simple. Once it appeared, it would definitely cause a rush to buy it. It might even exceed the ordinary golden creation. For those women who love beauty, it was simply a trump card. Dr. Kong really lives up to his name. He can even develop such a magical thing. Haitian praised. Miracle Dr. Kong. I wonder if you're thinking of auctioning this miraculous medicine in this auction? Yes. However, I have just developed it, and it is still in the trial stage. The production rate and success rate are very low. I can only take out 2 pre-sale items for auction. Dr. Kong nodded and said, 2? So few? Haitian was stunned. When he heard Dr. Kong mention this medicine, he thought that it could be mass-produced. The reason why it was auctioned at the auction was to let the bidders be the first to use this magical medicine. However, it seemed that it wasn't the case. Yes, although we have a few dozen trial-produced portions, you also know that our Kong family has a lot of friends. Most of them are given to our friends, so there are only 2 left for auction. Dr. Kong said exaggeratedly. Chapter 524. Chapter 524, Another Miracle Doctor, I see. 2 is not a small amount then. Yu Haitian nodded and said, Then this skin beautifying golden creation will be the finale of today's auction. Let's keep it for tonight. Thank you, Mr. Yu. Miracle Dr. Kong was very satisfied with this decision. The last item the auction house brought out was basically used to stabilize the situation. Dr. Kong, if there's nothing else, please tell the staff about the effects of this skin beautifying golden creation, as well as when you can get it. I'll be taking my leave, Haitian said with a smile. No rush. There's one more thing that I hope, Mr. You can help me with. Miracle Dr. Kong, on the other hand, stopped Haitian and stopped him from leaving. Oh, is there anything else? Haitian asked, even though he already knew the answer. It's like this. House Kong has done a lot for everyone these past few years. Mr. Yu, could you recommend us to the 5 noble houses and the 4 small noble houses annual meeting so that we can be promoted to a noble house? Miracle Dr. Kong said word by word as he looked at Haitian. He didn't believe that Haitian didn't do his research before he came. He had already stated his conditions, and it depended on House Yu's attitude. Of course, I can recommend you. Haitian had already received his uncle's message. Since House Kong had such a good item as their trump card, there was no need for House Yu to stop them. But, although House Yu is the host of the Noble House meeting, whether or not House Kong can become a noble house depends on the other noble houses. Haitian had already received his uncle's message. Of course we know that, Mr. Yu. But, as long as House Yu doesn't object and recommends us, wouldn't we have a higher chance of winning? Dr. Kong smiled. Right, Xiaolong has acknowledged Shin Tian as his big brother, so naturally. House Wu wouldn't object. Dr. Kong was quite smooth with his words. He didn't say that House Wu would support it, only that they wouldn't oppose it. This way, Qintian wouldn't think that he was overstepping his authority. Of course, my little brother's business is my business. Why would I object? Qintian patted his chest confidently. Qintian, have a lot of friends, but my only true brother is Xiaolong. He's my real brother. Qintian felt that in front of his follower, Xiaolong, he needed to show off his dominance to move him. That way, he'd be able to increase his level of arrogance. At that time, when a new pretentious B***starred Wu Taizhou appeared in front of Sun Jingyi, wouldn't he be able to capture her heart easily? Qintian felt very proud of himself at the thought. The meal yesterday was expensive, but it was worth it. Not only did he get a hold of Lin Yi's weakness, but he also learned how to act cool through Xiao Xiao. And what was even rarer was that he got a follower like this. Life was simply too wonderful. What luck! Qintian felt like he was about to become the lucky main character in a novel. All the good things in the world had been taken by him. Haitian's face changed. Wu Qintian's presence here naturally represented House Wu's stance, but he didn't expect Qintian to speak out in support of House Kong so obviously. This was out of his expectations. Qintian's words also explained a lot of things. His only true brother was Xiaolong. What did that mean? Were House Kong and House Wu this close? Haitian hadn't interacted much with Qintian, and naturally, he didn't know that the guy was a spoiled brat. His martial arts weren't weak, but his personality was a bit impulsive. From Haitian's perspective, Qintian was a golden-class early-phase master at such a young age, and his future was limitless. He was definitely the leader of the third generation of House Wu, the future heir. His words naturally represented House Wu. Haitian didn't know that Qintian was a golden-class master, yes, but he was a golden-class master at such a young age, and it was inevitable that he was arrogant. He was spoiled rotten by Gongao, and his only way to solve problems was to use force. As a result, he didn't know that he was being used by Xiaolong. Since young Master Wu supports it, then there shouldn't be too much of a problem for House Kong to become a noble house. Haitian smiled. Of course, since House Yu has nominated House Kong, we will naturally support it. If that's the case, then thank you very much. Dr. Kong saw that his goal was achieved, and he didn't say anything else. He chatted with Haitian a bit more before going to discuss the auction with the staff. Xiaolong, on the other hand, went to have dinner with Qintian. With this relationship, he wouldn't be Xiaolong if he didn't take advantage of the situation. In these 2 days, Xiaolong had achieved the first step of his life's goal of planning and progress. He pretended to reveal his heart, fooled his grandpa, and successfully grasped House Wu's relationship with him. House Kang's promotion to noble house was basically a done deal. How could Xiaolong not be happy? The only regret was that he didn't want to part with Wang Xinyan, but he had no choice. This Wang Xinyan wasn't someone he could play with casually, and if he didn't want her, it would bring trouble to House Kong. Although House Xiao was down and out, a starving camel was still bigger than a horse. Xiaolong didn't want to bring trouble to House Kong. Forget it. Who knew which bastard would take advantage of such a flower in the future? Xiaolong shook his head and went to have fun with Qintian, throwing the matter of Wang Xinyan to the back of his mind. But this way, Wang Xinyan had peace. Without Xiaolong's harassment, life returned to normal. Not long after Miracle Dr. Kong left, Haitian was in the middle of a discussion with his uncle about House Kong when his confidant called again. Haitian frowned. Why were there so many things happening today? But he still picked up the phone. What's up? I'm busy. Haitian told him about his situation first. His meaning was clear. If you don't have anything important, you can talk to me later. Mr. Yu, Mr. Lai Changyi, and Professor Guan Shumin from Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company, as well as a young gentleman, are here. They want to see you, his confidant reported. Chapter 5:25. Shocked to death, the middle-aged man from House Yu, Haitian's second uncle, was stunned as well. Why was Guan Shumin here? He wasn't surprised by the two miracle doctors appearing at the same time, but by the fact that Guan Shumin would come here personally to meet with House Yu. Guan Shuamin's attitude towards the big houses had always been neutral. He didn't get too close to any of them, but he didn't get too far either. His medical skills were superb, but he played his part. He didn't charge a lot, and he didn't put on airs. Guan Shuamin was highly regarded by all the big houses. Moreover, Guan Shuamin was a person that all the big houses wanted to rope in. After all, who wouldn't get sick when they ate only 5 grains? Knowing a miracle doctor was the same as having a life guarantee. However, Guan Shuamin didn't accept the invitation from any of the big houses, and he wouldn't take the initiative to visit them. House Yu had suggested for House Guan to become a noble house more than once, but Guan Shuamin never agreed. Guan Shuamin knew very well that being a noble house was just a temporary glory. He didn't have a successor, and no one could ensure the prosperity of House Guan for generations to come. Guan Shuamin basically didn't have any feelings for his eldest son's bloodline, and the only heir left was Guan Xian. Girls had to marry eventually, and being a noble house wasn't that important anymore. If his granddaughter found a capable man, she would naturally live a life of wealth. It didn't matter if House Guan was a noble house or not. This was why Shuamin's visit this time surprised House Yu. Second uncle, should I go receive him? Yu Haitian wasn't an idiot. If Dr. Kong was here, he would have to ask his second uncle. But if Miracle Dr. Guan was here, he had to receive him. I'll go with you. The middle-aged man hesitated before standing up. Yu Haitian was taken aback, but he understood immediately. With Guan Shuamin's identity, it was worth it for his second uncle to receive him personally. Even the heir of the hidden house behind House Yu was on par with Guan Shuamin in terms of medical skills. After instructing his men to be respectful, Yu Haitian and his second uncle came to the guest room and saw Guan Shuamin, Lai Changyi, and Lin Yi walking in together. Professor Guan, what a rare guest. The middle-aged man walked over first and shook Guan Shuamin's hand passionately. His expression was so warm that even Yu Haitian was surprised. Ah, you're the second son of House Yu, right? What was it called? I'm getting old and my memory is getting worse, but sometimes I don't see it. Guan Shuamin, on the other hand, nodded at the middle-aged man calmly. He did not appear overly surprised or enthusiastic. Yeah, I'm Mercury Shuaishing. The middle-aged man didn't seem to mind Shuamin's attitude at all. He was still very enthusiastic. You treated my illness when I was young. Yes, I remember. Guan Shuamin nodded. Mercury. After exchanging greetings with Shuamin, Yu Shuaishing turned to Haitian. Haitian, what are you waiting for? This is your Grandpa Guan. Grandpa Guan? Haitian called out respectfully. Guan Shuamin nodded in acknowledgement. He had always been like this. He didn't have much enthusiasm for anyone. It was only in front of Lin Yi that he would be overly enthusiastic. People of learning would usually admire people who were more knowledgeable than themselves, so this was an exception. Professor Guan, what can I do for you to come at this time? Shuaishing wouldn't beat around the bush with Guan Shuamin. If he could do it, he would do his best. I'm just here to help out. Lin and I are here to accompany Fatty Lai, Shuamin joked. It was rare for Guan Shuamin to crack a joke, and he'd changed the way he addressed Lai Changyi to Fatty Lai. Haha, Professor Guan, you sure know how to joke. Shuaishing laughed as well. Chairman Lai, what's the matter? Because of Shuamin, Shuaishing was very polite to Lai Changyi. It was just that he couldn't figure out Lin Yi's identity. He sent Kuan to follow him yesterday, but Lin Yi found out. It's nothing big. Our miracle doctor, Guan Medical Company, is planning to add another item to the auction tomorrow. Fatty Lai said, Oh, there's another item? Haitian's eyes lit up. The reaction from the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing yesterday was unprecedented. If Fatty Lai really had another item to auction, it would be beneficial to the auction. We do, but we didn't bring it out before because we were afraid that people would say we're imitating that Dr. Kong. But we do have an injury medicine that's similar to the Golden Creation, so we're auctioning the special edition tomorrow, Fatty Lai said. Oh, you're auctioning the special edition as well? Haitian's expression was a little strange, but he still said, House Kong has prepared 100 copies of Dr. Kang's special edition for auction tonight. It should be enough to satisfy the demand of the auction. Haitian didn't continue because he trusted Fatty Lai. He knew that Fatty Lai would understand what he was going to say. If they were to auction it tomorrow, there wouldn't be a market for it. The people who should have bought it had already bought it. Although the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing caused a stir, the special edition of the injury medicine wouldn't be the same. I don't know what their special edition golden creation does, but our special edition injury medicine has extraordinary effects. Fatty Lai waved his hand and said nonchalantly, I'm not worried about selling good stuff. How can Miracle Doctor, Guan Medical Company's product, be compared to Dr. Kang's trash? Shueishing understood what was going on and waved his hand. Haitian, you don't have to worry about it. Let's hear the effects of this special edition injury medicine first. Yes, second uncle. Haitian was shocked. Yeah, Miracle Doctor, Guan Medical Company's products were so amazing. How could they be compared to Dr. Kang's? Our special edition injury medicine doesn't only have the basic effects of the injury medicine, but it also has the effect of beautifying the skin. Not only could it heal wounds quickly without leaving scars, but it could also repair some old scars and completely remove these old scars. Of course, that's only the main effect. There are many other auxiliary effects like beautifying the skin, improving the skin tone, removing dark skin, shrinking pores, and so on. Fatty Lai continued. Wah! Haitian's eyes widened, and Shueishing looked like he'd seen a ghost. Chapter 526. Chapter 526. The same auction item. What's wrong? You don't believe me? Fatty Lai was puzzled by the Yu family's expressions. It's not that we don't believe you. Shueishing smiled bitterly. We're just shocked. Oh, I see. Fatty Lai thought that they were shocked by the special edition injury medicine, but he didn't expect it to be because of something else. There's a total of 20 bottles. The starting price is 500,000. Mr. Yu, you can decide what to do with the rest. 20 bottles? You have it in stock? Haitian's eyes widened. Yes. Fatty Lai almost cursed. What was he supposed to say if he didn't have it? But because of Shueishing's identity, he didn't do anything out of line. Second uncle, what do you think? Haitian looked at Shueishing, troubled. Haha. Then let's make it the finale of tomorrow's auction. Shueishing smiled. I think there'll be a rush to buy it. 500,000 is too cheap. 1 million. All right. Yu Haitian heard that his second uncle had made his decision, so he didn't say anything else. 1 million wasn't out of Fatty Lai's expectations. To him, the more expensive the item, the better. He placed the suitcase on the table. The special edition injury medicine is in here. Please check it out, Mr. Yu. As for the introduction, it's all written and placed inside. Haitian opened the suitcase and was taken aback. Was this the special edition injury medicine? Why did these broken white plastic bottles look like spices? This is the special edition? Haitian couldn't help but ask. Haha, it's a last-minute preparation. There's no packaging. Fatty Lai smiled. Haitian was speechless, but he believed that Fatty Lai wouldn't lie to him with trash. This thing should be effective. He nodded. All right, I'll go register it later. After chatting with Fatty Lai for a while, Guan Xumin, Fatty Lai, and Lin, he left the auction hall. Shueishing would naturally spare no effort to rope in someone like Guan Xumin. Moreover, Miracle Doctor Guan's medical company's products weren't ordinary. After sending Guan Xumin off, Shueishing wanted to laugh. Dr. Kong had brought a skin-beautifying golden creation, and he wanted to use it as a bargaining chip to enter a noble house. If it was any other time, it would have been enough, but Guan Xumin just had to bring the exact same product, and he had it in stock. If Dr. Kong knew about this, wouldn't he cry? He had wanted to use this to build a relationship, but the other party had already turned it into a product for sale. Who else could he sell his pre-sale product to? Second uncle, today's situation is really complicated. Yu Haitian sighed. Actually, it's nothing for House Kong. Kong, Shueishing sighed. It's not Kong. Kong Doctor Family Kong, Guan's 7 Young 6. That's right. Tonight, will the 2 pre-sale products of the skin, beautifying golden creation from the Kong family still be auctioned? Yu Haitian asked. Why wouldn't we? Shueishing smiled. What's wrong with that? We won't buy it. As for the others, they can buy it if they want. You're right, we're just helping them with the auction anyway. It's not our fault if people don't buy it. Haitian nodded. That night, the second auction began. Xiao Xiao called Lin Yi the moment she woke up, but Lin Yi didn't have time to talk to her. He only asked if Tian Long was back yet, and after learning that he wasn't, he rejected Xiao Xiao's suggestion. But at the auction, he couldn't avoid running into Xiao Xiao again. Lin Yi. Xiao Xiao ran to Lin Yi with 2 bottles of drink, her face a little red as if remembering what happened last night. You're fine now? Lin Yi took the drink from Xiao Xiao. His relationship with Xiao Xiao was a little weird, and Tian Long was involved as well. It gave Lin Yi a headache. Oh, I'm fine. Xiao Xiao shook her head, her usual generosity replaced by shyness. Xiao Xiao's expression made Lin Yi feel even more helpless. He had to admit that Lin Yi was a little moved yesterday, but it was pure lust, not because he liked Xiao Xiao. But Xiao Xiao's condition yesterday made Lin Yi feel weird. He'd never seen anything like this before. Xiao Xiao, we had some issues before, but I saved you yesterday. Lin Yi sighed. I think we'll call it even? Ah. Xiao Xiao blinked, but she understood what Lin Yi meant. Lin Yi didn't want her to take revenge on him anymore. But did she still want to take revenge on him now? If Lin Yi didn't bring it up, Xiao Xiao wouldn't have felt anything. But now that Lin Yi brought it up, Xiao Xiao suddenly realized that her hatred for Lin Yi had lessened. She wasn't screaming for revenge like before, but there were some complicated emotions mixed in. She'd let this Lin Yi guy see her naked, and he didn't say anything. Did he want to let it go just like that? What issues do we have? Didn't we resolve it a long time ago? Xiao Xiao made up her mind and looked at Lin Yi, confused. Xiao Xiao, let's not beat around the bush. What do you want? Lin Yi didn't seem to care about Xiao Xiao's innocence. I like you. I just want to be with you. I don't want to do anything else. Xiao Xiao looked at Lin Yi wronged. Don't tell me you don't want to be responsible for me anymore. Lin Yi was speechless. He knew that talking to Xiao Xiao wouldn't have any effect, so he just ignored her. Xiao Xiao wasn't angry. Lin Yi ignored her, and she just flipped through the catalog in her hands. The lights gradually dimmed, and the spotlights on the auction stage lit up. Yu Haitian walked out from behind the curtain, bowed politely, and said, "Welcome to the second round of the auction." Lin Yi wasn't interested in most of the auction items. Other than some expensive antiques, there were some famous celebrities dating and some jewelry. Finally, it was the Wani box that Lin Yi was interested in. Fatty Lai, who was about to fall asleep, sat up straight with a bang. Lin Yi found it funny. This guy was a genius. Was this even possible? Chapter 527. Cheating others. The auction continued, but it wasn't as heated as the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing the day before. Although the items being auctioned weren't cheap, there weren't many bidders, and the bidding wasn't intense either. Many people gave up after seeing that there were people fighting over the items. It wasn't something that could be taken or not, and there wasn't a need to ruin their relationship over these things. These people are really rich. Xiao Xiao couldn't help but click her tongue when she heard the tens of millions. I could buy a Ferrari with just a little bit of it. Didn't you cheat Wu Qintian enough yesterday? Lin Yi said, amused. Who told him to mess with me? Xiao Xiao said matter-of-factly. I cheated him a lot. He's lucky I didn't teach him a lesson. Right, Lin Yi. Why did you come to the auction? You and Xiao Xiao didn't think much about it before, but when she remembered that Fatty Lai called Lin Yi boss, her eyes widened. You're that Fatty's boss? A few black lines appeared on Lin Yi's forehead. He was a little speechless. He neglected the fact that Xiao Xiao was beside him, and he hadn't told Fatty Lai what to watch out for, and now Xiao Xiao saw through him. That Fatty's the CEO of a pharmaceutical company. He saw that I'm strong, so he wanted to be my follower, Lin Yi explained. Oh, I see. That Fatty seems to be very rich. Xiao Xiao narrowed her eyes at Fatty Lai. Hey, Fatty, I'm your sis-in-law. Aren't you going to give me a gift? What? Fatty Lai's eyes widened as he looked at Lin Yi, confused. Ignore her, she's sick. Lin Yi waved his hand, gesturing for Fatty Lai to ignore Xiao Xiao. Fatty Lai laughed dryly and turned his head away, wondering if this girl had anything to do with his boss. That's all? He seems to listen to you a lot. Don't tell me you have a share in that pharmaceutical company? Xiao Xiao wasn't stupid. Naturally, she didn't believe Lin Yi's words. Was it just martial arts that could make that fatty listen to her like that? That doesn't seem possible, right? Lin Yi ignored her and turned his attention to the auction stage. The next auction item was the Millennium Snow Lotus, but Lin Yi's target was the box that contained the Snow Lotus. TSK. If you don't want to say it, then I won't. Xiao Xiao was a little embarrassed that Lin Yi was ignoring her again. Why was she so bad in his eyes? How was Tang Yin stronger than him? The next auction item is a 1,000-year-old Snow Lotus. The auctioneer slowly placed a delicate wooden box on the stage and said slowly, I believe everyone knows the uses of the Millennium Snow Lotus, so I don't need to explain. Everyone knows that a Snow Lotus is rare even in 100 years, let alone a Millennium Snow Lotus. This 1,000-year-old Snow Lotus was found in a cave. It's been around for a long time. When it was found, it was stored in this box. After being identified by experts, the age of this Snow Lotus is at least 1,000 years. The auctioneer went on and on about the origin of the Millennium Snow Lotus. In fact, all of this was stated in the auction booklet, and the auctioneer just repeated it in his own words. The starting price of the Millennium Snow Lotus is 5 million. Let the bidding begin. The auctioneer finished and waited for the people to start bidding. This 1,000-year Snow Lotus caused a moment of silence. Although most people had heard of the 1,000-year Snow Lotus, they didn't know how to use it. They weren't researching medicine. Even if they spent 5 million to buy it, it would probably be useless. So most people were just watching, but at this moment, someone called out a price. 6 million. Kong Guifeng stood up and raised his paddle, calling out a price that wasn't too high. As far as he was concerned, there shouldn't be many people competing for the Millennium Snow Lotus, or even none at all. Fatty Lai was watching as well, about to make a move when he saw Kong Guifeng raise his paddle. He froze. But then he remembered that House Kong was also a medical company, so it was normal for them to buy the Millennium Snow Lotus. But he didn't know if they were determined to get it. 8 million. Fatty Lai raised his paddle. However, Fatty Lai had been the focus of the auction yesterday, and his raising of his paddle attracted everyone's attention. It wasn't that Fatty Lai was spending 8 million to buy some Millennium Snow Lotus, but that he and Kong Guifeng were at loggerheads. Yesterday, Fatty Lai and Kong Guifeng were competing for the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing, and today they were competing again. But even though Fatty Lai and Kong Guifeng were competing, no one else dared to interfere. First, these two weren't easy to mess with, especially Fatty Lai, who had Guan Xuemin behind him. Who would want to offend him? Wouldn't it be asking for trouble if they caused trouble now? Second, the Millennium Snow Lotus was useless to them, so no one would bid for it. 10 million. Kong Guifeng's face darkened. He didn't think that Fatty Lai would interfere. He thought he could get the Millennium Snow Lotus for 6 million. But now he had no choice but to raise the price to 10 million. 15 million. Fatty Lai didn't wait for Kong Guifeng's voice to finish before calling out a new price. Fuck. Kong Guifeng's face turned the color of a pig's liver as he cursed under his breath. He looked at Dr. Kong. Father, this Fatty Lai is obviously here to cause trouble. He screwed us over yesterday, and I'm guessing he's thinking the same thing today. Kong Guifeng couldn't be blamed for thinking that way. People of the same trade were enemies, and this was an unchanging rule. It was only natural that Fatty Lai wanted to go against House Kong. We have to get this Millennium Snow Lotus no matter what. It doesn't matter if he's here to cause trouble or not. We can't give up. Dr. Kang's face was unfriendly as well, but in order for House Kong to be promoted to a noble house, they had to get this Millennium Snow Lotus. Otherwise, everything would be over. 20 million. Kong Guifeng called out a higher price, hoping to scare Fatty Lai and make him give up. 25 million. Fatty Lai wasn't scared at all, calling out a higher price. 30 million. Kong Guifeng said immediately. 50 million. Fatty Lai said calmly. Kong Guifeng was furious. There were only two people bidding. Why did you raise the price by 20 million all of a sudden? What was the meaning of this? Did he have too much money to spend? Or was he just trying to scare people? 55 million. Kong Guifeng looked at his father, who nodded before continuing. Chapter 528. I have a way most of the people at the scene could tell that Fatty Lai didn't really want to buy the Millennium Snow Lotus. Instead, he was just bidding for fun, trying to trick House Kong. Why else would he bid like that? Even if he had money, he wouldn't do it like that, would he? Kong Guifeng's blood rushed to his head. He was about to bid 85 million when Xiaolong stopped him. Xiaolong's mission today was to accompany Wang Xinyan. But now that House Kang's promotion to a noble house was set in stone, he didn't want to accompany Wang Xinyan anymore. He might as well come to the auction and see for himself. Xiaolong, what are you doing? Kong Guifeng frowned. Didn't you hear your grandpa say that we're determined to get it? Dad, it's true that we're determined to get it, but we need to use some strategy, Xiaolong said quickly. Blindly bidding like this will only make the price go higher and higher until it's out of control. Oh, Kong Guifeng was getting impatient. What do you want to say? Hurry up and say it. If we don't bid, we'll be letting someone else buy it. Guifeng, listen to Xiaolong. Let him bid. Dr. Kong had a long talk with Xiaolong yesterday, and after seeing Xiaolong's performance in front of Yuhaitian this morning, he valued Xiaolong a lot more than his eldest son, Kong Guifeng. Kong Guifeng could only keep his mouth shut after hearing his father's words. 86 million. Xiaolong raised the bidding card in his hand and quickly explained to his father and grandpa. Earlier, when we increased the price by 5 million, it showed that we still have a lot of money on hand. This way, if the other side is trying to trick us, they'll definitely continue to increase the price after hearing our increase. So I'm only increasing the price by 1 million to show that we're weak. If they're really trying to trick us, they'll think that we're at our limit and can't afford it anymore. Just like yesterday, they gave up when we couldn't raise the price anymore. If the other party is determined to get it, then whether I add 1 million or 5 million, it will be the same to them. Let's see how they raise the price. In fact, Kong Guifeng also understood this logic, but he was muddle-headed just now. Now that he heard his son's explanation, he realized that he was indeed a little impulsive. Dr. Kong, on the other hand, looked at his eldest grandson with satisfaction. Xiaolong's ability and calmness in handling things were undoubtedly better than anyone else in the Kong family. 100 million. Fatty Lai called out his final bid. Xiaolong didn't think that the opponent would be so determined. He had already shown weakness. Logically speaking, he shouldn't have increased the price like this. If he couldn't afford it, wouldn't he have to buy it? Did he really want to buy it? However, this was also hard to say. Fatty Lai was representing Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company, and House Kong wasn't the only one who needed the 1,000-year-old Snow Lotus. Other people might need it too. Xiaolong wanted to raise the price, but he couldn't. House Kong really didn't have any money left. Xiaolong wasn't an impulsive and reckless person. He spent 15 million on Wu Qintian yesterday, and House Kong only had around 80 million left. It could be said that the price just now was House Kang's limit. Grandpa, we don't have any money left. Xiaolong took a deep breath and said unwillingly, we still have to buy it first. We can't back out now. Dr. Kong gritted his teeth. This 1,000-year-old Snow Lotus had to be in his hands, or all of House Kang's plans would be ruined. They had even taken out 2 pre-sale products of the Skin Beautifying Golden Creation for auction tonight. If they couldn't get the 1,000-year-old Snow Lotus, how were they going to deliver it? Thinking about the Golden Creation and Skin Beautifying Golden Creation products later, Dr. Kang's heart calmed down a little. 101 million. Xiaolong didn't pretend anymore. Since he had to get it, he might as well raise the price bit by bit. Let's see if Fatty Lai had the patience to keep this up. The price exceeded 100 million, and Fatty Lai had to turn to look at Lin Yi. As far as he was concerned, House Kong was at its limit. He didn't want to give up now. Boss, should we still bid? Fatty Lai whispered. If that box is really that important, I think we should go for it again. We can increase the price appropriately. You just need to control it well. Lin Yi nodded. With the income from yesterday's pill of life extension and toxin cleansing, Lin Yi didn't really care about the money. You want that box? Xiao Xiao heard Fatty Lai's words and looked at Lin Yi curiously. You don't want that 1,000-year-old Snow Lotus? Lin Yi didn't want to explain, but he was afraid that Xiao Xiao's laughter would be heard again. So he explained, "What I want is the box outside, not the lotus." "Ah, what do you want the box for?" Xiao Xiao asked curiously. "Don't ask so much. I'll tell you when we get back." Lenny didn't want to talk too much with Xiao Xiao. "What's with your attitude?" Xiao Xiao wasn't happy. "Hey, if I help you get the box, you'll be my boyfriend? You have a way?" Lenny asked, ignoring Xiao Xiao's words. "Of course." Xiao Xiao nodded and rolled her eyes. "Do you agree or not? What do you want to do?" Lin Yi, naturally, wouldn't agree to Xiao Xiao's random suggestion. "Don't worry about it. If you agree, then it's a deal." Xiao Xiao winked at Lin Yi. "Forget it." Lin Yi shrugged. Lin Yi couldn't agree to something like this just because of the box. Xiao Xiao was furious. She glared at Lin Yi. "Then you can't ignore me from now on, okay? We'll talk about it after you get the box." Lin Yi didn't object this time. Now that he had Tian Long, Lin Yi couldn't just ignore Xiao Xiao. "Then you have to cooperate for now. Whatever I say later, you can't say no." Xiao Xiao said. "Okay." Lin Yi nodded. He could cooperate for a while as long as she got the box. At this time, the price had risen to 110 million under Fatty Lai and Xiaolong's bidding. The two didn't increase the price by too much. It was a matter of who could last until the end. Xiaolong had just made a bid of 111 million, and Fatty Lai made a bid of 112 million. Chapter 529. Chapter 529. Buying a makeup box. Fatty Lai, are you fucking doing this on purpose? You went against us yesterday, and you're doing the same today. Kong Guifeng couldn't take it anymore and stood up. House Kong didn't have any money to begin with. If this continued, they wouldn't be able to pay for the Snow Lotus even with the money from the auction tonight. Moreover, the Kong family couldn't go bankrupt just to buy this Millennium Snow Lotus. It wouldn't be a problem if they didn't have a penny in their hands. Xiaolong sighed. It was too late to stop his father, but since he had already gone against Fatty Lai, he couldn't back down anymore. House Kong wasn't afraid of trouble. On purpose? Fatty Lai was about to give up, but after Kong Guifeng's words, he didn't want to give up anymore. He stood up and retorted, "What? You're the CEO of Dr. Kang's medical group. Don't you know what an auction is? You can bid, but I can't?" Xiaolong had to stand up. He was a member of House Kong, and since his father had stood up, he couldn't just sit back and do nothing. But Xiaolong's voice wasn't as aggressive as Kong Guifeng's. He spoke calmly. "Mr. Lai, my dad didn't say that you can't buy it, but what's the use of this Snow Lotus? Can you tell me? This herb is precious, but it's not something that every Chinese medicine prescription needs, right? What's the use of it?" Fatty Lai laughed. "Do I need to tell you what I'm buying it for? Can't I just buy it for fun? Why don't you tell me what you're buying it for?" Xiaolong smiled. Fatty Lai's words were exactly what he wanted. He wanted Fatty Lai to say that so that he could move on to the next step of his plan. Xiaolong had already planned everything from the moment he stood up. "Mr. Lai, I can tell you," Xiaolong said, "we're a medical company. Although it's for profit, our goal is to save lives. That's not wrong, is it?" Fatty Lai frowned. He didn't know what Xiaolong meant, but he didn't refute. "Mr. Lai, the Kong family bought this Millennium Snow Lotus to save lives. As the saying goes, saving a person is like putting out a fire. This Millennium Snow Lotus is a guiding drug. The patient we are treating now only lacks this guiding drug." Xiaolong continued, "Neither servile nor overbearing. We may have some conflicts between us, but I hope that Mr. Lai will consider the fact that we're both sacred healers and look at the bigger picture and the patients. If you're just buying it for fun, you should give it to us. After all, we need it to save lives." Xiaolong's words silenced the crowd. Xiaolong laughed coldly in his heart. "Playing with me? You're still too young. Who the hell do you think you are when it comes to playing dirty?" One had to admit that Xiaolong's words had tilted the public's opinion towards House Kong. He'd said he'd buy it to save a life, and if Fatty Lai were to fight with him now, wouldn't that be a little too much? Besides, Fatty Lai had said it himself. It was a fight for fun. You're playing, and he's saving someone. How could it be the same? If you didn't give it to him, then you'd be leaving someone to die. You're also in the medical field. Don't you know about the benevolence of a doctor? Was he supposed to watch others die before his eyes? Of course, Xiaolong wasn't afraid that Fatty Lai would change his words and say that he'd bought it to save a life. It was too late to change his words now. How could there be such a coincidence? You're saving someone else's life? He didn't believe that Fatty Lai would do that. He'd be looked down upon even more. Fatty Lai frowned. He wanted to give up already, so he didn't play any tricks with House Kong. He'd just say a few words and be done with it. He didn't expect this Kong kid to be so cunning. With just a few words, he'd put himself in such an unjust position. Fatty Lai had been smart his whole life, but he'd failed miserably. It wasn't Fatty Lai's fault. Even Lin, he had asked him to give up. Why would he bother to deal with House Kong? Who said we're fighting with you for that Millennium Snow Lotus? Xiao Xiao stood up before Fatty Lai could say anything. Oh, did I hear it wrong? Xiaolong smiled faintly. He wasn't angry, but he was frowning in his heart. This Xiao Xiao wasn't a good person. She'd almost killed Qintian yesterday. This girl was a sly one. What Millennium Snow Lotus? I want to buy that box. Xiao Xiao pointed at the box with the Millennium Snow Lotus on the stage. I think this box looks good, so I want to buy it as a makeup box. What does it have to do with the Millennium Snow Lotus? Xiao Xiao's words silenced the auction immediately. So Fatty Lai had been bidding for so long just to buy a makeup box for this girl? Xiaolong laughed coldly in his heart. You're spending 100 million on a makeup box? Who are you kidding? Xiaolong didn't believe Xiao Xiao's words at all. He knew that Xiao Xiao was a weird girl who wouldn't even blink an eye at all. From what he could see, Xiao Xiao standing up at this time was probably to help Fatty Lai out. After all, he'd said that he wanted to buy the Millennium Snow Lotus to save a life. And Fatty Lai had no choice but to give it up, but wouldn't he lose face? Xiao Xiao's actions saved Fatty Lai's face. Since she was buying a makeup box and not the Millennium Snow Lotus, she wasn't fighting with him on purpose. Oh, so you're buying a makeup box? Lil Sis Xiao Xiao has quite the unique taste. Xiaolong wasn't Qintian. How could he believe Xiao Xiao's words? Yeah, why don't you give it to me? It's not easy for me to fall in love with something. Xiao Xiao smiled at Xiaolong. She was as cute as she could get. As cute as she could get. Xiaolong humphed coldly. Trying to play this trick with me? It's no use. Do you think I'm Qintian? Do you think I'm that easy to trick? Fine, Xiao Xiao. You made me spend 15 million yesterday, and I haven't even settled the score with you yet. You came to me on your own accord. If I don't teach you a lesson, you'll think that I'm easy to bully, won't you? With that thought, Xiaolong had a plan. He didn't look at Xiao Xiao anymore and turned to Fatty Lai. He asked in a tone that was neither servile nor overbearing. Mr. Lai, so this is the box you want? Not the Millennium Snow Lotus? Yeah, I'm helping her buy this box. Fatty Lai understood what Xiao Xiao was trying to say. He had to cooperate with her, but he didn't know the details of her plan, so he felt awkward. Chapter 530. Chapter 530. Who tricked who? Xiaolong thought to himself. Even if you're a fatty, I'll make you fatter today. I'll make your face even more swollen. Play with me? I'll play you to death. Xiaolong nodded and smiled. Then I'm sorry. I misunderstood Mr. Lai. It seems that Mr. Lai didn't want to fight with me for the herb, but rather, you wanted to buy the box. I misunderstood you, Mr. Lai. You don't have the heart of a doctor. I'm ashamed. Nonsense. Why would I want the herb? It's not delicious, and it's not fun. Xiao Xiao humphed. Since you know, why don't you give it to us? Haha, Xiaolong laughed coldly in his heart. Even if you didn't say it, I'd give it to you. But it's not the herb. It's the box. Don't you like the box? Don't you want to use it as a makeup box? Fine. I'll fulfill your wish. Who do you think I am, Xiaolong? You dare to play this game with me? See if I don't cripple you. Ha, of course. Xiaolong smiled. Since it's a misunderstanding, then it's easy. Xiao Xiao sis likes the box, right? How about this? After I get the herb, I'll sell it to you for 50 million. I won't make you spend too much. We'll split it in half and take what we need. What do you think? Xiaolong looked at Fatty Lai and Xiao Xiao darkly. He wanted to see how they were going to deal with this. Xiaolong was sure that Xiao Xiao was lying about buying the box as a makeup box. Haven't you heard of the story of buying the casket and returning the pearls? Who would do such a stupid thing? So, Xiaolong used Xiao Xiao's words to turn the tables on them. In this way, they were caught in a dilemma. If he wanted to save his face, he would have to swallow his pride and take out 50 million to buy the box back. If they were shameless, then Xiaolong wouldn't force them to buy it. But from Xiaolong's point of view, Fatty Lie's company had just been established, and he was a famous person. He wouldn't lose face over something like this. That would be too embarrassing. Dr. Kong and Kong Guifeng looked at Xiaolong in astonishment. They didn't expect Xiaolong to be so shrewd. Not only did he seize the initiative of the auction with just a few words, but he also wanted to sell the wooden box with the snow lotus to Fatty Lie for 50 million. This was simply forcing them to buy and sell. The Kong family was still worried about the lack of funds, but in the blink of an eye, they extorted 50 million from others. Most of the people in the auction didn't think that Xiao Xiao was telling the truth, but there was nothing wrong with Xiaolong's way of handling things. You wanted to buy the box, and he sold it to you. What was wrong with that? Xiao Xiao pretended to be angry and widened her eyes. She pointed at Xiaolong, speechless. Xiaolong was very pleased with himself. With this little girl's IQ, you can only fool that idiot Wu Qintian. Compared to me, Xiaolong, you're still a long way off. What do you think? You shot yourself in the foot, didn't you? This time, you have no choice but to buy it. All right, 50 million it is then. Thank you, Kong, for helping me. Fatty Lie's expression was also very interesting. He gritted his teeth and said hatefully. After Fatty Lie finished speaking, he sat back down with a gloomy face. However, his heart was bursting with joy. He didn't expect the girl beside his boss to be so powerful. With just a few words, she got the box for half the price. This was amazing. He secretly gave Xiao Xiao a thumbs up. Xiao Xiao grinned and turned to Linny. Hey, I did what I said, didn't I? Huh. Linny didn't expect Xiao Xiao to have so many tricks up her sleeves. She just tricked someone yesterday, and now she's doing it again. Not only that, she made the victim think that she got a great bargain. Aren't you going to thank me? Xiao Xiao was a little displeased. She was taking credit from Linny, but Linny didn't look too happy. Didn't I talk to you? Linny asked. Oomph. Xiao Xiao turned her head away. What kind of person was this? He helped her out of kindness, but he didn't even say thank you. On the other hand, on Dr. Kang's side, Dr. Kong and Kong Guifeng were both very happy. Dr. Kong even praised, Guifeng, this son of yours is not simple at all. It looks like our house Kong will be flourishing in his hands in the future. This 1,000-year snow lotus worth more than 100 million has been cut in half. Haha, it's just for the sake of the situation. Xiaolong said humbly, 100 million is too high of a cost. Even if we make the skin-beautifying golden creation, we can only make 30 or so servings. Even if we sell it for 5 million each, it'll barely cover our costs. Although we're doing everything we can to become a noble house, isn't it better if we can save some money? That Xiao Xiao probably hates your guts right now. Dr. Kong smiled happily. People of the same trade are enemies. Even without what happened today, they'd hate each other already. Xiaolong didn't care. He said proudly, that girl was the one who tricked me into eating yesterday. If I don't make her pay, how can I face her? But will they go back on their word? Find some reason to reject it? Kong Guifeng was worried. He was afraid that he'd lose the meat that was right by his mouth. That was 50 million. For the Kong family, this was definitely a huge sum of money. Of course it's possible. That girl is full of bullshit *T. She might say that she doesn't like it anymore and wants to go back on her word. Xiaolong had thought of this. So, we need to hurry. I'll go to the backstage and do the paperwork. We'll sell the box to Fatty Lie in front of everyone. I don't believe that he'll be so embarrassed as to not buy it. Dr. Kong and Kong Guifeng nodded in agreement. Xiaolong's idea wasn't bad. In fact, when Xiaolong brought the box to Fatty Lie looked like he was in pain. He stared at the box in Xiaolong's hands, hesitating to take out the check. Mr. Lai, I've brought the box. Please take a look. Xiaolong wasn't in a hurry. He held the box with a confident look. This box is really pretty. It's a good makeup box. Isn't it a little too expensive? Xiao Xiao curled her lips. Hey, Xiaolong bro, we've eaten together before. Can't you give it to me? Chapter 531. Pay back money without paying, then make it cheaper. Xiao Xiao said disinterestedly, seeing that she couldn't get Zhao Long to agree. I'll lose half of the money and sell it to you. Isn't that cheap? Zhao Long smiled. I spent more than 100 million on it. Didn't you want to buy that snow lotus? That's just an accessory. Xiao Xiao humphed. 10 million. If it's okay, I'll let him buy it. If it's not okay, then I don't want it. I'm a young girl. What's wrong with going back on my word? Xiao Xiao's words were a little shameless, but she also pointed out that she was a girl and a young girl. Even if she acted shamelessly, Xiaolong couldn't do anything to her. Xiaolong sucked in a breath of cold air when he heard that. He had underestimated Xiao Xiao. He was sure that Fatty Lai wouldn't go back on his word for the sake of his reputation, but he didn't expect Xiao Xiao to go back on her word. And if Xiao Xiao went back on her word, no one would be able to say anything. She said she didn't like it and didn't want it anymore. So naturally, Fatty Lai wouldn't buy it anymore. Everything was caused by Xiao Xiao. So why would Fatty Lai buy it if she didn't want it anymore? It didn't matter if he lost face or not anymore. Zhao Long frowned. This was a little troublesome. Things were out of his expectations. Xiao Xiao really wouldn't give him money so easily. 10 million? Isn't that too little? What if it's not even enough? Zhao Long naturally couldn't insist on 50 million. If he did, there would be no room for discussion. She wouldn't want it anymore. But he couldn't accept the 10 million that Xiao Xiao said. You guys want face and less money at the same time. How could there be such a good deal? All right, 20 million is the most I'll give you. I'll remember this. Fatty Lai said faintly. Don't think that you're very smart. We'll see. Deal. Xiaolong heard Fatty Lai's tone and knew that he couldn't persist anymore. She had already gone back on her word. However, it was better than nothing. To him, it was already very good to be able to sell it for 20 million. What else could he ask for? After Xiaolong left, Fatty Lai admired Xiao Xiao from the bottom of his heart. Wasn't he too good at playing dirty? Xiaolong must be really unlucky to have met her. I didn't know you had so many tricks up your sleeves. Lenny couldn't help but admire Xiao Xiao for cutting another 30 million in the blink of an eye. That's right. Now you know the consequences of messing with me? Xiao Xiao looked at Lin Yi, pleased with herself. Let's see if you still dare mess with me. Lin Yi shrugged, not answering Xiao Xiao's question. Xiaolong returned to his seat with the 20 million check. He didn't get the 50 million he expected, but even so, Dr. Kong and Kong Guifeng were very happy. If they were to do it, it would be a problem if they could get the Millennium Snow Lotus, not to mention a broken box that could be sold for 20 million yuan. Although the fight for the 1,000-year Snow Lotus had attracted a lot of attention, it came and went quickly. Soon, the auction was coming to an end. During this period, the Kong family's golden creation medicine, which was a must-have item in the auction every year, was also successfully sold out. There were no accidents, and before the auction ended, the most exciting moment for House Kong had arrived. The auctioneer cleared his throat and said loudly to the crowd, "Today, other than the items on the list, we will add another mysterious item as the finale of today's auction." Whoa! Everyone's attention was drawn to the auctioneer. It was not uncommon to add an item at the last minute. It had happened in the past, but it was rare to see an item appear last and be called the finale of the auction. Everyone's eyes widened as they wanted to see what the auctioneer was talking about. The last mysterious item is the newest product brought by Dr. Kang's medical company, Skin Beautifying Golden Creation. The auctioneer announced the name of the item and continued. There are only 2 of these mysterious items, and it's a pre-sale item. The delivery time is 2 months later. Skin Beautifying Golden Creation? What the hell is this thing? Is it also a type of golden creation? The most surprising thing was that there were only 2 of these items, and they were pre-sale items. There was no stock. What kind of high-end medicine was that? The auctioneer was very satisfied with the atmosphere at the scene. Seeing that everyone was discussing and guessing, it meant that this item had the possibility of being sold at a sky-high price. So, he wasn't in a hurry to continue the introduction. Instead, he waited for everyone to finish the discussion before he introduced this skin-beautifying golden creation, as the name suggests. After the auctioneer explained the effects of the skin-beautifying golden creation, the crowd was in an uproar. This kind of medicine that could repair skin scars didn't exist in the world, but the effect wasn't as magical as the auctioneer said. Not only did it not leave any scars, but it could also improve the skin. It sounded like a lie, but those who had used Dr. Kang's golden creation knew that it wasn't a lie. When the men heard the news, they were a little better. However, the women around them were a little crazy. When they heard that there was such a magical thing, how could it be? A rich businessman's wife who came to participate in the auction said to her husband, "The scar from my C-section is still there. It's so ugly. You must buy me a bottle." This rich businessman was a henpecked man. When he heard his wife speak, he nodded repeatedly. Buy. How could he not buy? Besides, wouldn't it be more comfortable to look at after it was cured? Therefore, the rich businessman rubbed his hands together. He had a lot of wealth in his hands, so he was determined to get it. The other rich businessmen also had the same experience. The madams and ladies of the big families were also eager to show off their skills. As for the men, they weren't that interested. How many men cared about scars on their bodies? They weren't going to be models. The starting price of the skin-beautifying golden creation is 1 million yuan. Each bid increase must be no less than 500,000 yuan. The auctioneer was very satisfied with the effect of the scene. He didn't know that the same medicine would be auctioned tomorrow. He thought that today's medicine was a limited edition, so he was prepared to sell it for a super high price. 1,500,000. Someone began to bid. 2 million. The person who bid gave the first person a look of disdain. How can you increase the price like this? Such a good thing. And I asked you to increase it by 500,000 just like that? 3 million. Someone immediately overtook the second person who bid. Soon, the price soared to 5 million. Chapter 532. Chapter 532. You're not sick. One of them was from House Kong. Dr. Kong was smiling as he enjoyed this moment of accomplishment. Kong Guifeng and Kong Xiaolong were the same. The other was from House Yu. House Yu looked at the bustling auction with cold eyes. Anyone who made a deal today would regret it tomorrow. They didn't want the stock, but they bought a pre-sale item. However, House Yu couldn't say it out loud. Fatty Lai and Guan Shuamin were the most confused. Fatty Lai didn't expect Miracle Dr. Kong to come up with a golden creation as well. Boss, don't tell me House Kong found out about our plan? Why did they come up with an auction like this? Did someone from House Yu leak our information? That won't happen. Lin Yi smiled faintly. I know which recipe they have. Oh, boss, you know their recipe? Fatty Lai was surprised. Then, our recipe is different from theirs? It's different. Theirs is very expensive. It's filled with expensive herbs. Mine is very ordinary. Lin Yi smiled. The reason why they want to buy the Millennium Snow Lotus is probably to make this skin-beautifying golden creation. The Millennium Snow Lotus is an essential ingredient for this. I see. No wonder they want it even if it's 100 million. Fatty Lai nodded in realization. If I knew this, I would have bid higher just now. I'll kill them. Didn't we kill them already? Lin Yi looked at the wooden box in his hand and smiled faintly. 20 million. It's worth it. From the appearance of the wooden box, it was indeed made of Wanyankin wood. However, Lin Yi didn't know what it was used for and how to use it. He had only read about it in an ancient medical book. He only took a glance at it and didn't read it in detail. Hence, he didn't remember much about it. Praise me. I'm the one who played with it. Xiao Xiao suddenly interrupted. I'll give you a bottle of our special edition injury medicine later. It's about the same as his. Lin Yi couldn't just leave it at that. After all, Xiao Xiao played a huge role in getting the Wanyankin box. Boring. I'm not going to remove scars. Xiao Xiao did have scars on her body, but as far as she was concerned, that wasn't important. She was about to die, so why would she care about stuff like that? If he had the time, he might as well do something else. Xiao Xiao's curiosity was piqued. Linny, what did you mean? Fatty Lie's recipe was given by you? Linny heard Xiao Xiao's words and knew that he had spilled the beans. Xiao Xiao's presence was a hindrance, and it was hard to communicate with Fatty Lie. Don't tell anyone. Linny looked at Xiao Xiao and said faintly, Then you want me to be your girlfriend? That way, you won't have to worry about me leaking the secret. Feng Xiao Xiao giggled. She had something on Linny. She couldn't help but feel proud. Okay, tell me. Lin Yi shrugged nonchalantly. Although Lin Yi wasn't involved in the medicine company, many people knew that Lin Yi was the mastermind behind the scenes, so he wasn't afraid of Xiao Xiao finding out. You! Xiao Xiao was furious. Fine, I won't tell you. Tell me, do you know medicine? A little. Lin Yi didn't hide it anymore. The pill of life extension and toxin cleansing from yesterday. Can you give me one? Xiao Xiao looked at Lin Yi expectantly. Xiao Xiao had given up on her illness. But who would want to die? She'd heard the auctioneer talk about the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing yesterday, and how it could cleanse one's bones and marrow. It was a miracle pill, and she wondered if it could improve her constitution. No. Lin Yi shrugged. What do you want? I'll eat it, Xiao Xiao said. You're not sick, you don't need to eat it. Lin Yi waved his hand. I'm not sick? How do you know I'm not sick? Xiao Xiao blinked. I've checked. Lin Yi said, but I don't see anything wrong with you. If there's a problem, eating it won't help. Oh! Xiao Xiao was a little disappointed, but Lin Yi was right. There was nothing wrong with her body, no matter which hospital she went to. If Lin Yi really did notice something was wrong, then he'd be a god. You didn't have any signs of life in you before. Lin Yi frowned, but shook his head. You wouldn't understand even if I told you. It's a little weird. It's the first time I've met someone like you. Xiao Xiao blinked. She didn't think that Lin Yi would actually notice something was wrong with her body. But what was life? Xiao Xiao really didn't understand what Lin Yi meant. Then would you believe me if I said I'm going to die? Xiao Xiao asked after some hesitation. You won't die. Lin Yi looked at Xiao Xiao. You're still normal for now. Oh. Xiao Xiao didn't continue. She told Lin Yi about her situation because she wanted to see if Lin Yi had a solution, but she didn't want Lin Yi to pity her. In the auction, the price of the skin beautifying golden creation skyrocketed. It was already sold for 10 million. Dr. Kong couldn't stop smiling. He didn't expect this thing to be this valuable. The cost was reduced even more. The first skin beautifying golden creation was sold to a wealthy businessman at the price of 11 million. The noble houses didn't rush to make a move. They understood that since this medicine belonged to House Kong, they would definitely prepare it for them. They knew what House Kong was thinking. If they wanted to become a noble house, they needed to show some sincerity. So they didn't participate, but they still paid attention to it. The second pre-sale item was also sold for 11,500,000. The buyer was also a rich businessman. This was what House Kong wanted to see. They didn't want the noble houses to make a move now. If that happened, their plan wouldn't be able to go smoothly. He wanted to meet with the people in charge of the noble houses after the auction and give each of them a skin beautifying golden creation. Now that these people had benefited from him, he believed that they would definitely support him during the clan assembly. The second day of the auction ended smoothly. With Haitian's help, Dr. Kong met with the people in charge of the 4 noble houses and 5 small noble houses. Chapter 533. Chapter 533. House Yu's attitude. Hearing that House Kong had something to say, the people in charge of the houses all stayed behind. Most of them understood what House Kong was doing. It had to have something to do with the skin beautifying golden creation. In one of the meeting rooms of House Yu's auction house, Yu Haitian received the heads of the houses. Wu Gonggao, the head of House Wu, was absent, and Wu Qintian was the representative. Xiao family, on the other hand, sent out their second son, Xiao Bin. Shuaixing didn't show up either, which surprised House Kong. After all, Yu Shuaixing was the one in charge of House Yu's external affairs, and Haitian was only the person in charge of House Yu's external businesses. In the morning, although Shuaixing wasn't there, Dr. Kong wasn't an idiot. He had already guessed that Shueishing was controlling Haitian from behind. He thought that after throwing out enough chips, he would be able to see Shueishing at night. But Shueishing did have the right to put on airs, and Dr. Kong didn't think too much about it. Plus, this unexpected thought was fleeting. Very quickly, Dr. Kong was overwhelmed by the joy and hope of becoming a noble house. Dr. Kong, second uncle, has something to do tonight, so he won't be coming. He asked me to represent him, Haitian said faintly as he looked at Dr. Kong. His tone wasn't as warm as it was in the morning. But miracle Dr. Kong didn't mind. He thought that Haitian was doing this on purpose for others to see. After all, House Yu was the organizer of this event, and they couldn't just stand behind the other houses. That would cause a huge chain reaction. It's okay, Mr. Yu is busy, so he doesn't have to participate. Hearing Haitian's explanation, Dr. Kong thought that Haitian was giving him face, and he was even happier. Old Kong, why did you call us here? The one who spoke was the head of House Song, Song Xiangwen. House Song was one of the four great worlds, an ancient martial arts house. There was a mystic class master in the house, and he was the younger brother of the head, Song Xiangwen. But because he had no hope of breaking through, he went out to train and had yet to return. Otherwise, House Song wouldn't be any less famous than House Wu. But even so, Song Xiangwen's words were still very firm, and this had something to do with his strength at the peak late phase of the golden class. I've called all of you here because I have a piece of good news to announce. Dr. Kong stood up and nodded at the representatives of each family. Then, he continued, after many years of dedicated research, our Kong family has finally made a breakthrough and developed the skin-beautifying golden creation. I won't go into too much detail about the effects of this medicine. It's just that it's still in the research phase and can't be mass-produced, so we've only produced a small batch. Apart from the 2 batches that will be auctioned off, we're prepared to give the rest to the aristocratic families first. Song Xiangwen nodded with satisfaction after listening. Your approach is very good. Don't let the goodies flow to the outsiders. Song Xiangwen was old but strong. After his first wife died, he remarried. Just now, his second wife was urging him to snatch the 2 skin beautifying golden creation medicine. Song Xiangwen was a sly old fox. Naturally, he would not do such a stupid thing. As a matter of fact, as soon as the auction ended, someone came knocking on his door. All the aristocratic families have a share, and the price is very good as well. It's only 5 million per bottle. Dr. Kong saw everyone's expression and knew that his plan worked. These people seemed to have a good impression of him. 5 million, not expensive. Song Xiangwen nodded. Other than Xiao Ben, the other aristocratic families here didn't care about 5 million. They only cared about their face. As long as it was cheaper than the auction price, it would be giving them face. Plus, it was half the price. I prepared a total of 20 bottles. Apart from the 2 that were sold in the auction, there are 18 bottles left. There are 9 aristocratic families here, and each house can get 2 bottles. Dr. Kong smiled. But if any house doesn't want it, you can give it to someone else. Who wouldn't want something like this? Only an idiot. But there really was an idiot. But was the person who appeared really an idiot? House Yu doesn't want it. If any of you want it, you can take it. Yu Haitian's brainless words made the atmosphere turn cold. Even Dr. Kang's expression froze. He didn't know what Yu Haitian meant by this. Yu Haitian saw everyone's expression and smiled faintly. As the host of the auction, House Yu shouldn't fight with everyone. I was scolded by my second uncle yesterday. Naturally, Yu Haitian wouldn't say that the same thing would appear tomorrow, and the price was only 1 million. House Yu naturally didn't want to increase the number of aristocratic houses, even if they were weaker than the 5 small aristocratic houses. They took advantage of them. If that was the case, House Yu naturally wouldn't give House Kong anything to talk about. When everyone heard Yu Haitian's words, they immediately understood. So that was the case. Hence, the remaining 2 bottles of skin, beautifying golden creation, were snatched away by the other aristocratic families. Although Dr. Kong didn't have anything to do with the promotion, he believed that everyone here knew what House Kong was thinking. Now that they were benefiting from House Kong, even if they didn't support it, they wouldn't cause trouble for House Kong. So with this, House Kang's promotion to a noble house was a done deal under House Yu's leadership, as long as there were no accidents. Walking out of the auction hall, Dr. Kang's face was filled with excitement and relief. Based on my dragon grandson's performance this time, you have made a great contribution. Dr. Kang looked at Xiaolong, getting happier and happier. He felt that under his leadership, House Kang would definitely prosper. Kang Guifeng was happy as well. His son's performance was good, and the position of the head of the house was basically set. Even if the old man passed away one day, Suepu wouldn't be able to compete with him. Xiaolong was already the third head of the house. What else could Suepu fight for? Grandpa, you're flattering me. I'm just doing my duty. I'm also a member of House Kang. Naturally, I want the best for House Kang, Xiaolong said humbly. Yes, we're all doing this for House Kang. Dr. Kang nodded. This time, there shouldn't be any accidents with House Kang becoming a noble house. Grandpa, why do I feel that Yu Haitian's attitude is a little weird tonight? Xiaolong frowned. He felt that Yu Haitian's attitude wasn't right, but he couldn't tell what it was. Weird? House Yu won't openly support us in front of other people. They have to put on an act for others to see. Miracle Dr. Kang was so excited that he couldn't listen to anything else. Chapter 534. Lin laid on the bed in the hotel room and let out a long breath. He thought that he would be able to face House Yu calmly. In fact, Lin Yi tried his best to stay calm. But after he calmed down, he couldn't help but think of that beautiful face and her sad eyes. Ning, are you okay? Lin Yi shook his head in self-mockery. It was all in the past. Why was he still holding a grudge against her? Did he leave because he thought that his identity was not good enough for her? Or was it because he couldn't give her a stable life? Or was it because he was young and didn't want to be restrained by love and family? Or was it because he found out about her secret and chose to escape? Lin Yi didn't know. He couldn't explain it either. His state of mind then was completely different from his current state of mind. Back then, he was nervous all the time, but now he was relaxed. Lin Yi got up from the bed and went to the bathroom. He turned on the shower and walked in. He felt much more refreshed. He silently channeled the art of dragon mastery. Golden Class Mid-Phase made Lin Yi smile. Last night, he recovered to Golden Class Mid-Phase. The speed was fast, but this wasn't something to be happy about. The closer he got to his original strength, the slower the progress. In fact, Lin Yi recovered to Golden Class Mid-Phase in the first half of the night. There was no progress in the second half. After taking a shower, Lin Yi dried his hair and looked at his phone. There were 2 missed calls. He thought that it was Tang Yin, but it wasn't. One was Xiao Xiao, and the other was Kang Xiaobo. Lin Yi called Kang Xiaobo first. Kang Xiaobo picked up quickly. Boss, why didn't you pick up? I took a shower. What's the matter? Lin Yi asked. Boss, did you get into an argument with sis-in-law Tang Yin? Kang Xiaobo asked. No, why? Lin Yi paused. It shouldn't be an argument, right? He just stood her up. Tang Yin wouldn't be that petty, right? I saw sis-in-law Tang Yin's eyes were red, as if she cried the whole night. Kang Xiaobo said, did something happen to her family? Her family? Lin Yi paused, thinking that it was possible. Maybe Tang Yun's family was in trouble, and he didn't know Mr. and Mrs. Tang's phone numbers, so he didn't know how to contact Tang Yun. This lass even turned off her phone. It was really worrying, so he said, help me ask her or Lu Xinwen tomorrow, and then give me a call back. Since Tang Yin could still go to school, it shouldn't be a big problem. But Kang Xiaobo said that Tang Yin cried the whole night. Her eyes were red, and it made Lin Yi's heart ache. He wasn't someone who was good at expressing his emotions. Other than training, he was on missions. The only family he had was his master and his old man, but they were very strict. Okay, I'll ask now. I have Lu Xinwen's number, Kang Xiaobo agreed. After hanging up the call with Kang Xiaobo, Lin Yi called Xiao Xiao back. What's up? I helped you so much today. Aren't you going to thank me? Xiao Xiao giggled. I'm busy. If there's nothing else, I'll hang up. Lin Yi was waiting for Kang Xiaobo's call. He didn't want to waste time with Xiao Xiao. Hey, what do you mean? He doesn't want it anymore after using it? Xiao Xiao was panicking, accusing Lin Yi of being unreasonable. Use it? Throw it away? Lin, he was speechless. Wasn't that a little too ambiguous? What did she mean by throw it away? It sounded like he did something to her. Then how do you want to thank me? Lin, he could only ask. Treat me to a feast. I want to eat good food. Xiao Xiao said. I can't afford seafood. Beef noodles, then. You don't have to eat if you don't like it. Lin, he said faintly. Oh, okay. Xiao Xiao nodded casually. It doesn't matter what we eat. The important thing is who we eat with. Lin, he was speechless. He didn't know what was wrong with Xiao Xiao's brain. She was either hinting at him or confessing. Lin, he didn't believe that this girl would fall for him after teaching her a few lessons. Wasn't she a masochist? Not long after, Kong Xiaobo called back. Boss, did you break up with Tang Yin? Why did Lu Xinwen say that you're ungrateful and don't want Tang Yin anymore? What? Lin, he blinked. Don't want Tang Yin anymore? Broke up? When did that happen? You don't know? Kong Xiaobo blinked as well. I've been in Yinjing the whole time. How would I know? Lin Yi smiled bitterly. Lu Xinwen didn't lie to you, right? I don't know. Who knows what happened? I called, and Lu Xinwen started yelling at me. She told me to tell you that Tang Yin doesn't want to be with you. You don't want her anymore. There's a lot of people waiting in line for you. Xiaobo was quite troubled as well. It was a wasted call. I'll ask from what's going on tomorrow. All right, help me ask her tomorrow. Lin Yi frowned. Was there some misunderstanding? Tang Yin wasn't that petty. She thought that he didn't want her anymore just because he stood her up once, right? Less than a minute after he hung up on Kong Xiaobo, Xiao Xiao called again. Lin Yi, why did you hang up on me? Is this how you treat pretty girls? Xiao Xiao was really pissed. Why? What right did Lin Yi have to ignore her? She wanted him to treat her to a meal, but he didn't even want to. It was as if she really wanted that meal. Is Uncle Phone back yet? Lin Yi didn't linger on the topic of Xiao Xiao. If he did, there'd be no end to it. He just changed the topic. This was something he learned from Yushu. No. What? You're in a hurry to see your father-in-law. Xiao Xiao teased. Lin Yi didn't expect Xiao Xiao to bring the topic back with just one sentence. He couldn't help but admire Xiao Xiao. This girl was quite a match for Yushu. One acted dumb, and the other acted like an oddball. Neither of them were easy to deal with. Then call me when Uncle Phone comes back. I'm going to sleep. Lin Yi was about to hang up. Hey, wait. When are you going to treat me to beef noodles? I want a big bowl with meat, Xiao Xiao said. Chapter 535. Master Bing is here, then you can't go back on your word, Xiao Xiao reminded. I won't, Lin Yi said helplessly. All right, I'll let you go for now. Xiao Xiao hung up the phone, satisfied. She waved her fist excitedly. Yay! I'll make you treat me to beef noodles when we get back to school. I'll piss Tang Yin off. Songzhan, Starlight Hotel, in the top private room. Sihua stood beside a young man and filled up the wine glass in front of him. Master Bing, do you have any new instructions from the boss? Oh, my dad didn't say anything. He just wanted you to cooperate with me. Qibing waved his hand nonchalantly, as if he didn't put Sihua in his eyes at all, this big boss of the underworld who could shake the entire Songzhan city with a single stomp. However, Sihua wasn't annoyed. He understood his position. In the eyes of the boss, he was just a dog. Although Qibing was his illegitimate son, he was still the young master. What good would it do to him if he didn't serve him well? Of course, I'll do whatever you say, Master Bing, Sihua said respectfully. How's the real estate company I want? I heard that it's very profitable. Have you settled the company yet? Qibing asked bluntly. It's done. All the procedures are ready. I've already informed Jin Gubong. He'll be here soon. Sihua said quickly. We're just waiting for you to give the company a name. Jin Gubong? Is he the chairman of Pingzhan Industries? Qibing clearly had an impression of Jin Gubong's name. He lost to that old fox Pingzhan and got kicked out of the company. Sihua said, but it doesn't matter. It won't affect your company. Jin Gubong invested his own money to open a real estate company for you. Oh, at least he's smart. Sihua nodded in satisfaction. Since he's the investor, I'll give him 20% of the shares later. He'll be the general manager and help me manage the company. Jin Gubong will be grateful if he knows about it. He'll work for you with all his heart. Sihua said respectfully. There was a knock on the door just as they were talking. "Who is it?" Sihua asked. "It's me, Jean Gubong." Gubong's voice sounded from outside. "Come in," Sihua said faintly. Gubong pushed the door open and saw Sihua standing respectfully beside a young man. He paused for a moment before remembering that this was the legendary Master Bing. "Master Bing, Sihua bro," he said with a flattering smile. "You're Jean Gubong? Sit. Tell me about the real estate company." Master Bing nodded and pointed at the seat across from him. "Thank you, Master Bing." Gubong's heart was bleeding, but there was nothing he could do. His previous actions were a double loss. Not only did he lose his position as the chairman of Pengzhan Industries, but he was also kicked out of the company. Now, all his assets were used to set up a real estate company. After he walked out of the room, he was penniless. "Sihua, tell him what I said just now. Let him know what's going on," Qibing ordered. Sihua nodded. "Old Jean, Master Bing, is a good master. He won't mistreat loyal subordinates like us." "Yes, yes," Gubong replied, smiling bitterly in his heart. "That's for you. He won't mistreat you. You tricked a real estate company from me as a gift. Wouldn't he reward you if he was happy? What about me? I'll have nothing if I give you the real estate company. Master Bing said that you're the one who invested in this company, so he's going to reward you with 20% of the shares and hire you as the general manager. You'll be working for Master Bing in the future. Do you have any objections?" Sihua asked. Gubong paused. Giving him shares? Making him the general manager? Wasn't this a good thing? Although it was a bit too much to reward him with the shares of the company he started with his own money, the situation was pressing. Gubong was already surprised that Master Bing would treat him like this. Plus, he was kicked out of Pengzhan Industries, and the relationship he had with Pengzhan Industries wasn't working anymore. He didn't have any funds in his hands, and it was basically impossible for him to make a comeback. Qibing, on the other hand, was giving him a chance, and Gubong was pleasantly surprised. Besides, working under Zhao Qibing was very beneficial as well. With such a strong backing, the company would definitely be able to prosper. At the very least, Sihua was on his side now. Everyone was working for Master Bing, and his position would rise as well. He'd settle the score with Pengzhan then. "Master Bing, you're too good to me. I, Gubong, don't know how to talk, but I'll do my best to live up to your expectations. I'll do anything for you." Gubong clenched his fists, feeling that his life was full of hope again. "All right, don't think I don't know what you're thinking. You want to use my power to expand the company and get revenge on Pengzhan?" Qibing said faintly. Master Bing, I didn't mean it that way." Gubong was startled. He'd thought that Master Bing was just a spoiled brat, but he didn't expect him to have such sharp observation skills. He'd seen through his intentions in such a short amount of time. "You know better than anyone else whether you have it or not." Qibing curled his lips. "But you don't have to be afraid. I like my men to be ambitious, and I'm happy to see you use the power I give you to get rid of your enemies. But what I want is your loyalty. As long as you're loyal to me, I'll give you what you want." "Yes. Don't worry, Master Bing. I'll do what you ask of me." Gubong clenched his teeth. "I'm your dog, Master Bing. I'll bite whoever you want me to bite." Although it sounded like he was insulting himself, Gubong had thought it through. It wasn't easy for him to find a backer like this, and whether or not he could prosper in the future depended on Qibing. Qibing nodded, satisfied. "All right, since we're on the same side, there's no need to be so polite. Eat and drink, and we'll discuss the company's development." Chapter 536. Pinliang on the move, you don't have to be so nervous. Don't you want Pengzhan's company? Qibing smiled nonchalantly. "I want to do it too." Gubong paused, not understanding what Qibing meant. "Pengzhan's daughter is quite pretty. I've been wanting to play with her for a long time, but I never had the chance. I can't do anything before Pengzhan loses his power." Qibing chuckled. "I don't mind playing with his daughter after you destroy his company." "Oh, okay. Master Bing, don't worry. Under your leadership, I'll destroy him sooner or later." Gubong patted his chest confidently. "All right, let's put this aside for now. Tell me, how can our real estate company make money?" Zhao Qibing didn't lack money. His company was purely for fun, but it wasn't completely for fun. He also wanted to make some achievements. Although he was an illegitimate child, Qibing still wanted to be recognized for his ability and return to his family. Right now, the slums are one of the better places in Songzhan, and if we can get the development rights there, our company would be able to make a name for itself. Gubong said, "That's what I suggested at Sihua Bro." Sihua Bro nodded. "That's what I suggested." "Oh, if you say it's so good, then why hasn't anyone developed this area yet?" Qibing wasn't an idiot. He asked immediately after hearing Gubong's words. "Unruly people? There are too many unruly people." Gubong explained. Pengzhan Industries wanted to develop this area too, but the people in the slums banded together and demanded a high demolition fee. It wasn't worth it at all. Pengzhan is also a stubborn person, refusing to pay for quality. Naturally, there wasn't much profit to be made. The other developers are probably the same. "Oh, then we'll get profits from it?" Qibing asked. "With Sihua Bro around, we can't deal with those unruly people. We'll kill them if they try to extort us." Gubong curled his lips. "Then pay for the quality of the project. The quality of the houses doesn't need to be too good. Just scam them. Don't let others talk about the quality of the house. I heard that the country has a new policy. The developer will be responsible for the quality of the house for life. This will hurt the foundation if there is trouble in the future." Zhao Qibing waved his hand. "As for those relocated households, it doesn't matter. Let's look for benefits from them." "No problem." Gubong was getting more and more convinced that Master Bin wasn't an idiot at all. On the contrary, he was quite thoughtful, not the type to act recklessly. He knew what he could and couldn't do. "Let's go to the slums when we're free these few days," Qibing said. "We need to get the development paperwork done as soon as possible." "That's easy. The city has long wanted to renovate that piece of land. It's just that no developer has taken over. I'll go and settle the paperwork tomorrow." Gubong said casually, "Right, Master Bin? What do you think the company's name is?" "Name? Let's call it Qibing Real Estate," Qibing said casually. Pinliang had been in an unusually good mood these past 2 days. He felt that his luck had finally turned for the better. The person he hated the most, Lin Yi, hadn't come to school for a few days. Without Lin Yi messing around, he could carry out his plans smoothly. "Xiaofu, how's your preparation?" Pinliang asked Xiaofu. "Liang Bro, I've found the cave. It's absolutely safe." Xiaofu chuckled. "I've installed a security door inside. No matter how strong Ming Yao is, she won't be able to escape." "Not bad. Your idea is very creative. It's much better than normal robbers. You're a natural-born villain." Pinliang laughed upon hearing Xiaofu's idea. "Haha, isn't it all thanks to you, Liang Bro? I wouldn't have thought of such a good idea otherwise." Xiaofu was very pleased. Pinliang said that he would tie Ming Yao up in the cave, but Xiaofu was afraid that something would happen to Ming Yao after Pinliang left. What if there were wild beasts in the wilderness? And so, Xiaofu installed a security door. Now, no one would be able to open it without a key. "There's food and toys inside, right?" Pinliang asked. "Of course, I prepared everything." Xiaofu nodded. "The rest is up to you, Liang Bro. See how you can trick Ming Yao." "That's up to me. I've thought about it long ago." Pinliang said confidently. "I know Ming Yao pretty well. I can handle this myself." Pinliang walked up to Ming Yao and Yushu's table and whispered, "Yao Yao, I have something very important to ask you." Ming Yao raised her head and frowned. "I told you not to call me Yao Yao. Call me Yao Yao Sis, or my full name." "Why is your memory so bad?" "Yeah, Yao Yao Sis. I think little Yang should eat some pills to nourish himself." Yushu nodded. Pinliang wasn't angry at all. Instead, he said seriously, "All right, I'll call you Ming Yao then. I really have something to talk to you about. These names don't matter." "What is it?" Ming Yao asked impatiently. She was just about to go buy some snacks with Shu when Pinliang suddenly appeared beside their seat. She didn't know what he wanted. Shu, do you want to leave for a bit?" Pinliang asked carefully. "Oh." Yushu paused. Pinliang never asked her to leave whenever he was chasing Ming Yao. He would even ask her to stay and help him. "What did he want today?" "Ahem. Today's business is a bit secretive. It might involve Ming Yao's privacy, so Pin Liang said in a roundabout way. Pin Liang, if you have something to say, just say it. If not, Shu and I will go shopping. Ming Yao's patience was at an end. Shu is my best friend. I don't want to hide anything from her. All right then, I'll say it. Pin Liang actually didn't want Yushu to get involved because of her identity. Pin Liang couldn't help but be wary of her. Do you have something to say or not? Ming Yao glared at Pin Liang. Yes. Ming Yao, you're an only child, right? Pin Liang asked carefully. Only child. Ming Yao paused. What do you mean? In other words, you're Uncle Chu's only child, right? Pin Yang explained. Chapter 537. Chapter 537. Someone similar to you, oh. Yao Yao sis. I got it. Yushu spoke up suddenly. Liangzi realized that he couldn't get you, so he turned his attention to your sister. Ming Yao was taken aback by Yushu's words. Was that really what Pin Liang meant? So he looked at Pin Liang confused. Pin Liang was stunned by Yushu's words. He didn't think that Yushu would be able to come up with such an excuse. He coughed dryly and explained, I didn't mean it that way. Oh, did he find out that Shield Bro is Uncle Chu's illegitimate son? Yushu asked curiously. Shu, don't talk nonsense. Ming Yao's heart tightened when she heard Yushu mention Shield Bro. She glared at her. How could she let Pin Liang know about this? Yushu stuck her tongue out. I'm just joking, Shield Bro. What's that? Pin Yang was confused. What were these two girls talking about? Nothing, just say it. Ming Yao clearly didn't want to explain. Pin Liang didn't want to talk anymore. Who cared about Shield Bro? He needed to focus on his own matters first. He said, what I mean is, Ming Yao, do you have any sisters or anything like that? Sisters? Ming Yao blinked. What sisters? My sister is Yushu. I'm not talking about sisters. I'm talking about Uncle Chu. Do you have any other daughters? Pin Liang asked carefully. Other daughters? Pin Liang, what are you trying to say? Why are you stuttering? Can't you just say it all at once? Ming Yao was a little angry. What was this guy trying to say? Was he trying to say that her father had an illegitimate son or daughter outside? Hey, Ming Yao, I might have seen wrongly. It's fine, it's fine. Pin Liang waved his hand and was about to leave when he added, how can there be such similar people in this world? Ming Yao wasn't interested in Pin Liang's words at first. She didn't want to call him back, but the second half of his sentence caught her by surprise. Pin Liang, what do you mean by like? She called out. Pin Liang, what do you mean? Is there anyone like me? That's right. Last night, I went to the Shuangyan Mountain Resort with my father. When I was climbing the mountain, I saw a woman who looked very similar to you. I should say, you're practically carved from the same mold. I thought it was you, so I called out your name. Pin Liang said, pleased that he'd gotten Ming Yao's attention. The woman's body shook, and she turned around to look at me before leaving in a hurry. What? Does he really look like me? Ming Yao's breathing quickened as she stared fixedly at Pin Liang. Yeah, but I took a closer look at her after she turned around. She's a little older than you. Pin Liang shook his head. I thought she was your sister or something. Why would she turn around if I called Ming Yao? Then did she say anything? Ming Yao asked, panicking. She didn't say anything. She glanced at me and left quickly. Pin Liang shook his head. I was curious, so I followed, but I lost track of them. Ming Yao gasped, her eyes staring blankly at something. She stood beside her seat, deep in thought. Mom? It must be her mom. A voice called out in Ming Yao's heart, making her heart beat faster. How could there be someone so similar in this world? So, that person must be her mom. Ming Yao had seen her mom's photo when she was young, and she looked exactly like her. In fact, she hadn't inherited Ping Zhan's genes in terms of looks. She'd inherited her mom's excellent looks. So, when Pin Liang mentioned this person, Ming Yao's first thought was that he'd seen her mom. Pin Liang knew that his plan had worked when he saw Ming Yao's expression. He'd been chasing Ming Yao for 3 years. How could he not know about Ming Yao's family background? He knew that Ming Yao's mother had a conflict with Ping Zhan when Ming Yao was young, and she left home. He hadn't heard from her all these years. It was impossible to say that Ming Yao didn't miss her mom. Pin Liang had grasped Ming Yao's psychological weakness, baiting her step by step. Now, it seemed like he'd succeeded halfway. Since you don't have a sister, then I must be mistaken. Forget it. Pretend I didn't say anything. Pin Liang shook his head and walked out of the classroom, counting silently as he walked. 1, 2, 3, wait. Pin Liang heard Ming Yao's voice from behind. Pin Liang's lips curled into a smile. He didn't believe that Ming Yao wouldn't take the bait. Ming Yao, is there anything else? Pin Liang turned around, a fawning look on his face. Are you going to give me a chance to chase you? Stop it. Ming Yao frowned. I won't talk to you anymore if you keep this up. No, I'll talk nicely then. Ming Yao, why are you looking for me? Pin Liang said that on purpose. His goal was to make Ming Yao think that he didn't care about the girl who looked like him anymore. Instead, he cared about how to chase her. That way, she wouldn't be suspicious. Let me ask you, did you really see a girl who looked like me at Mount Xuanyan? Ming Yao asked. Yeah, but she's older than you. Naturally, I won't be interested. Pin Liang said confidently. Ming Yao, don't worry. You're irreplaceable in my heart. She only looks like you. I won't fall in love with someone else. Who's asking you that? Ming Yao wasn't happy. Pin Yang, don't say useless things. I'm asking you, where did you see her? Where is it? That's hard to say. It's a big mountain. I might be able to find it if I go. It's hard to explain. Pin Liang scratched his head, troubled. Bring me there? Ming Yao couldn't care less. She missed her mother for so many years. At this moment, she couldn't care less about going to school. She didn't think about whether Pin Liang was telling the truth or not. She only had one thought in her mind. That was to see her mother as soon as possible. Now? It's pretty late, and school hasn't ended yet. Pin Liang said awkwardly. Why don't we find a place to eat first? We'll talk about the mountain later? Chapter 538. Chapter 538, Destroying Family Harmony. Sigh, since you've said so, how can I not? Pin Liang seemed disappointed, but the more he acted like this, the less suspicious Ming Yao was. Then let's go. Ming Yao was anxious, afraid that her mother would go somewhere else if she was late. All these years, Ming Yao had been thinking about her mother all the time. She never said it out loud, but under her tough exterior, there was a deep longing for her mother. She was a 19-year-old girl after all. No matter how mature she pretended to be and how big sister she acted in front of Yushu, she still couldn't suppress her desire for family. Should she tell her father? Ming Yao shook her head. All these years, her father had never mentioned her mother in front of her. It was as if he had forgotten about her, focusing all his attention on the company. This made Ming Yao a little unhappy, but she couldn't do anything about it. After all, her father was equally important to her. She didn't know why her father and mother fought, and she didn't know why her mother left home for so many years. But Ming Yao thought that if she could see her mother first and persuade her to stay, her father wouldn't be a problem. She might even be able to give him a surprise. Thinking of this, Ming Yao decided to see her mother in private. She had completely believed Pin Liang's words, treating that person as her mother. All right. Pin Liang nodded helplessly and shouted to Xiaofu, Xiaofu, come here. What's the matter, Liang bro? Xiaofu walked over, confused. He had to admit that his acting skills were quite good. It seemed like he had rehearsed many times. Come with me and Ming Yao to Mount Xuanyan. Pin Liang ordered. Why are we going to Mount Xuanyan for? Xiaofu was surprised. Why are you asking so many questions? Are you coming? Pin Liang obviously didn't want to explain. Oh, let's go. Xiaofu stopped asking. Ming Yao didn't think that it was inappropriate for Pin Liang to bring Xiaofu out. He was Pin Liang's henchman after all. It was normal for him to bring him out. Pin Yang and Xiaofu walked in front, while Ming Yao and Yushu walked behind. The four of them went down the stairs and walked out of the school gate. Sister Yao Yao, what's going on? Why do you want to go to Xuanyan Mountain? Also, who's that girl who looks like you? Yushu asked curiously as they walked. Don't ask so many questions. Just follow them. Ming Yao couldn't explain it in a few words, and it was hard to tell if her mother was still there. Oh, but I don't think it's appropriate for us two girls to go to the wilderness with Pin Liang. Should we tell Shield Bro? Yushu asked, seeing that it was getting late. Just admit it if you want to talk to Linny. There's no need for all these excuses. Mingyao said mercilessly, seeing through Yushu's thoughts. You miss him, don't you? Oh, I thought Yao Yao missed me. Yushu blinked. Should we call then? Suit yourself. Mingyao humphed, but then she thought that Shu might be doing the right thing. She should tell Lin Yi about her whereabouts. What if she got into an accident in the middle of nowhere? Yushu did miss Lin Yi a little, but she couldn't explain why. She was just used to living with Lin Yi. She wasn't used to missing someone all of a sudden. Poor little wife, always acting as the big wife's mouthpiece. Yushu took out her phone and mumbled to herself. What did you say? Mingyao almost tripped. What big wife, little wife? You're the big wife, I'm the little wife. Yushu wasn't afraid at all. You damn Shu, do you want to have your tongue pulled out? Who's Lin Yi's big wife? Mingyao glared at Yushu. Oh, Yao Yao really likes Shield Bro. Yushu raised her hands in joy. I only said big wife and little wife. I didn't say Shield Bros. You, I'm so pissed. Mingyao knew that she was tricked by Yushu. The girl had been leading her step by step, but she really didn't say who the big wife and little wife were. The big wife and little wife thing seemed to be something the two of them had agreed on before, and it didn't specifically say who the husband was. She'd been tricked. She'd been tricked. Mingyao glared at Yushu. Open your mouth. Yushu shook her head with a smile. Why? Mingyao thought. Did this dumb girl learn to be smart? Did she know that she was going to tear her mouth off? I'm not dumb. Opening my mouth and having my tongue pulled out. Yushu screamed before she could finish. Ah, no, it hurts. It hurts. Mingyao took the opportunity to tear Yushu's mouth. A dumb girl is still a dumb girl. Only a silly girl will be liked by others. Yushu covered her mouth and mumbled. Yao Yao, you're too bad. You won't be loved in the future. What do you mean? Mingyao asked. You bully the little wife and ruin the harmony of the family. In ancient times, you'd be an unloved queen. Yushu said, you don't want your mouth anymore, do you? Mingyao threatened. Oh. Yushu stopped talking and took out her phone to make a call, but Xiaofu was already in a taxi. She couldn't make the call. Mingyao, Shu, get in. Pin Liang waved at Mingyao and Yushu after seeing that Xiaofu had flagged down a taxi. Xiaofu hailed a 7-seater Turan cab, and Mingyao and Yushu, on the other hand, sat in the third row since they were small. Pin Liang, on the other hand, had no choice but to sit in the second row with Xiaofu. Pin Liang was so pissed that he wanted to kick Xiaofu to death. Didn't you look carefully when you flagged down a taxi? You should have flagged down a 5-seater Jetta. What were you trying to do with a 7-seater car? Pin Yang had wanted to sit with Ming Yao in the back seat. It was a 5-seater car, so there had to be 3 people in the back seat. He thought he could get intimate with Ming Yao, but it was all over now. But Ming Yao was sitting in the back seat, and Pin Liang couldn't get angry. He could only hold it in. In the car, Yushu sent a message to Lin Yi, telling him that she and Yao Yao were going to Mount Shuangyan with Pin Liang and Xiaofu. Chapter 539. The plan went smoothly. The car stopped at the foot of Mount Shuangyan. It was a rugged mountain road, so the taxi could only go there. Sir, you can only walk to the resort up there. My car can't go up there. It's a staircase. The taxi driver didn't know that Pin Liang had never been to this place before, so he explained to them. I know. Pin Liang paid the driver. Obviously, the driver thought that they were students who came to the resort. Now that the living conditions were better, it wasn't strange for young men and women to go to the resort together. So, the driver didn't suspect anything and left after taking the money. There's a resort up there? Mingyao had never been here before. There was no need for her and Yushu to go to a resort. There was no point in going to a resort with so few people. Yes, I came to this resort with my dad last night, Pin Liang said proudly. He really did come last night with his old man, and it was Tsihua's treat, along with Jin Gubong and a young man called Master Bing. Tsihua was the one who'd invited him. This gave Pin Liang a lot of knowledge and made him bolder. With Pin Liang's background, He was a little hesitant to make a move. The cave and the plan had been prepared long ago, but Pin Liang couldn't do it because he was afraid of Pingzhan's background. But after what happened yesterday, Pin Liang got to know Sihua and Master Bing. Master Bing was someone with a big background. Even Sihua was respectful to him, and Pin Liang's father worked for Master Bing and Sihua. Would House Zhong have to worry about not being rich in the future? So, Pin Liang couldn't wait to carry out his kidnapping plan today. Ming Yao nodded. She wasn't interested in the resort. She was focused on finding her mother. Pin Liang, bring me to the person who looks like me. I can't say if I can find her or not. Pin Liang said, Ming Yao, don't blame me if you can't find her. Why are you talking so much? Hurry up, Ming Yao said impatiently. Pin Liang snickered inwardly, but maintained his composure as he led Ming Yao and Yushu up the mountain. The sky was already dark, but there were quite a lot of people at the foot of the mountain since the resort was located halfway up the mountain. This gave Ming Yao and Yushu a sense of security, even though they didn't know it. With so many people here, nothing would happen. If there wasn't a single person around, Ming Yao would be hesitant to follow Pin Liang up the mountain. Although the mountain road was rugged, it was not shaky. The four of them were all young people, so it did not take much effort for them to reach the resort halfway up the mountain. Ming Yao, are you tired? Why don't we get something to eat at the resort first? Pin Liang asked. Eat what? I'm not hungry. Take me there? Ming Yao wasn't in the mood to eat. All right, let's go then. Pin Liang nodded unwillingly and continued up the mountain road. If it were in the day, there would be a lot of people going up the mountain to take pictures and sightsee, but the sky was dark. Naturally, no one went up the mountain. In the blink of an eye, the crowd was gone, and only Pin Liang, Xiaofu, Ming Yao, and Yushu were left on the small path. That person was here yesterday? Ming Yao was suspicious. Even if Pin Liang met her mother, what was her mother doing here? Yeah, I followed her here from the resort. I thought it was you, but then I realized it wasn't. Pin Liang nodded. What do you think she's doing here in the middle of the night? Pin Liang's question dispelled Ming Yao's suspicions. She had to admit that Pin Liang had some brains. He wasn't an idiot, and this plan was executed after careful planning. And so, Ming Yao didn't say anything else. She followed Pin Liang up the mountain, and after a few hundred meters, Pin Liang suddenly turned and walked towards a small fork in the road. There were no stone steps on the fork, and it was a dirt road. Ming Yao couldn't help but ask, why are you on a small road again? Chapter 540. A big discovery outside the cave. Ming Yao looked towards the direction of the cave anxiously. She didn't know how Pin Liang and Gao Xiaofu were doing. Why wasn't there any movement? Shoo, why do I have a weird feeling? Ming Yao frowned. She felt that something was wrong, but she couldn't put her finger on it. In short, Pin Liang was acting weird today. I've always been curious. Yao Yao sis, why did you bring me here? It's not fun at all. Yushu scratched her head and frowned. Yao Yao sis, you're not thinking of having sex with Pin Liang, are you? Shut up. How is that possible? Ming Yao hit Yushu fiercely. Do that with him. You might as well kill me. Oh, then who do you want to do it with? Yushu asked. I want my ass. I don't want to. Ming Yao almost fell for Yushu's trick. She raged. Shu, what are you thinking about? Are you thinking of doing it? I'm just curious. I don't really want to do it. Yushu wasn't embarrassed at all. Instead, she was curious. Then you wait for Lin Yi to come back and try it with him. Ming Yao said angrily. What about you? Yushu asked. What about me? Ming Yao was pissed off. Why did her best friend always bring up this kind of stuff? Was it because of the hormones in her puberty? Are you going to try it? Yushu ignored Ming Yao's anger and continued. I'll try it with you. Ming Yao was furious. Oh, I know. Yao Yao sis, you really like me. No wonder you get jealous whenever I mention Shield Bro. You're gay, Yushu said. Ming Yao didn't want to say anything else. She knew that Yushu was joking. It didn't matter if she explained or not. The more she explained, the angrier she would get. After a while, Xiaofu felt that the incense in the cave was almost there. He nodded. Pin Liang walked to the entrance of the cave and called out to Ming Yao and Yushu. Ming Yao, big discovery. Big discovery. Ming Yao raised her head and took a deep breath, suppressing her anger at Yushu. What discovery? You'll know when you come over. There's a door in the cave. Pin Liang yelled. That's weird. Oh. Ming Yao blinked. Why was there a door in the cave? Pulling Yushu along, Linny quickened his steps towards the cave. He looked in the direction of Pin Liang's flashlight and saw a security door. There's a door here? Is there really a door here? What was going on? Someone lives there? I don't know. We've studied it for a long time, but we still don't know what's going on. Pin Liang said worriedly. Why don't we call it a day? This place feels weird. Go knock on the door. How could Ming Yao give up just like that? Especially when she saw the door, it meant that someone was living here. The first possibility Ming Yao thought of was that her mother was living in seclusion here. Although it was a little strange, her impulsiveness had overtaken her rationality. Pin Yang could only nod. Since the beauty has a request, I'll give it my all. Sigh, but don't blame me if anything happens. We've been through thick and thin together. Why are you talking so much? Hurry up. Ming Yao was worried. Pin Liang was taking his time, but she felt dizzy. She didn't know what was going on. Pin Liang walked over and knocked on the door. Ming Yao's head was getting dizzier and dizzier. Her eyelids were starting to give out, and she was about to fall asleep. Shoo, I'm so sleepy. Me too. Yao Yao, I want to sleep. Yushu said as she fell into Ming Yao's arms. Ming Yao, on the other hand, fell to the ground after being pushed by Yushu. Pin Liang was overjoyed. It seemed like the incense was working, but he wasn't in a rush. What if the two woke up? After a while, Xiaofu spoke up after seeing that the two weren't moving. Liang bro, it's fine now. The owner said that they won't wake up for at least 10 hours. That's good. Get them into the house. Pin Liang pointed at the door. You go open the door? Okay. Xiaofu took out the key and opened the door. Pin Liang and Ming Yao hurriedly got Yushu and Ming Yao into the room. Pin Liang and Xiaofu heard that the incense was powerful, but they hadn't used it before. They didn't have any experience, so they didn't dare make too much noise. They were very careful, afraid that they'd wake Ming Yao and Yushu up. After everything was done, Pin Liang shook his head regretfully. It'd be great if I could touch Ming Yao's body, but he didn't dare to. He was afraid that he'd wake Ming Yao up. Yeah, leave Yushu to me. I like her. Xiaofu was drooling as well. If you want to die, you can touch her. Pin Liang said coldly. I wouldn't even bother with her if I had a choice. Her background isn't something we can mess with. Xiaofu couldn't help but shiver. He'd been blinded by his lust, but Pin Liang's reminder reminded him of Yushu's brother's glorious past. He quickly put away his unrealistic thoughts. Haha, I was just saying. Xiaofu laughed dryly. He knew that these two weren't the school beauties he could touch. He wanted to find a school beauty as his girlfriend, but other than these two, he couldn't touch anyone else. Tang Yun was the school beauty as well, but with a master like Linny around, who would dare touch her. The new transfer, Xiao Xiao, was even more so. Xiaofu didn't dare touch her either. Xiaofu was a little dejected this was his fate. He wasn't fated to be the school beauty. Keep these two phones. Pin Liang handed the two phones to Xiaofu. Liang bro, you keep them for yourself, I don't dare take them. Xiaofu was very careful after the scolding, afraid that he'd get dragged into it. Coward. Pin Liang humphed, not caring at all. He put the phone in his pocket. Let's go. Okay. Xiaofu didn't want to stay here any longer. He followed Pin Liang out. Chapter 541. Chapter 541, Secrets in the Phone. Liang bro, it's fine. Didn't we already have a plan? Xiaofu could tell that Pin Liang was nervous. If Pingzhan accepts you, Liang bro, then everything will be fine. If he doesn't accept it, we'll just let Ming Yao go. Ming Yao doesn't know that we set this up anyways, and we'll just say that the cave owner set us up together. She doesn't have any proof, and she'll even thank us for saving her. Who knows? Maybe we'll be the hero that saves the damsel in distress, and Ming Yao will fall for us. Pin Liang nodded. This was also the main reason why he used the incense instead of force. Even if things didn't work out and Ming Yao asked him about it later, he could always push the blame away and say that he'd fainted from the incense as well, but they'd only captured the two of them, leaving him and Xiaofu at the foot of the mountain. Although this would arouse Ming Yao and Peng Zhan's suspicions, it was just a suspicion. They wouldn't be able to do anything to him without any proof. This was also one of the reasons why Pin Liang wasn't afraid. If Peng Zhan didn't agree to his relationship with Ming Yao, then he could just let Ming Yao go. He wouldn't be able to do anything to Ming Yao then. He believed that Peng Zhan wouldn't hold this matter against him. Pin Liang had Xiaofu hail a taxi after they got down the mountain, and the two made their way back to school quickly. As for Ming Yao, he'd have to wait until Uncle Fu came to pick up Ming Yao and Yushu after school. He'd only be able to meet up with Peng Zhan then. During the self-study session at night, Pin Liang and Xiaofu acted as if nothing had happened. It was as if Ming Yao and Yushu's disappearance had nothing to do with them. In fact, no one dared to ask about the whereabouts of the two young ladies. Since the two of them had left, the teacher had turned a blind eye to it. Pin Liang was bored and wanted to see if there were any private pictures in Ming Yao's phone. It would be best if there were naked pictures. That way, Pin Liang could look at the pictures and fantasize about it. Unfortunately, Ming Yao evidently didn't like selfies. There were only a couple of pictures of Yushu in the album, and nothing else worth imagining. Pin Liang pressed the power-off button, deciding to put the phone back into Ming Yao's backpack. He couldn't explain himself if he had it in his hands. As for Yushu's phone, Pin Liang didn't want to look at it. He didn't want to, nor did he dare. What if he saw something bad and Yushu found out? The girl wouldn't let him off the hook. Who knew if Tsihua Bro and Master Bing would be able to mess with Yushu? But it didn't take long before Pin Liang's heart started itching again. He remembered that Yushu's photo was in Ming Yao's phone. Could Yushu have Ming Yao's photo in her phone? The two of them might even take photos of each other. With that in mind, Pin Liang pulled out Yushu's phone, turned it on, and opened the photo album. Quack! Pin Liang's eyes widened as the person in Yushu's photo album was none other than Lin Yi. This surprised Pin Liang. Why would Yushu have Lin Yi's photo in her phone? He flipped through it, and there were photos of Lin Yi in school, and there were photos of Lin Yi roasting the shark. There were many more similar photos. Pin Liang was speechless. This girl couldn't have fallen for Lin Yi, could she? But thinking about Yushu's personality, it was possible. But there was an 80% chance that it was just a crush. He couldn't see any relationship between Lin Yi and Yushu normally. Pin Liang let out a sigh of relief. If he let Lin Yi and Yushu get together, he'd be in deep trouble. The more he looked, the more depressed he got. He turned off Yushu's phone and shook his head. He didn't expect this at all. Did Ming Yao know about Yushu's crush on Lin Yi? But it wasn't his business. Pin Liang didn't have the time to care about stuff like this, especially when it involved Lin Yi. He didn't want to care about it. What if he got himself into trouble again? When school was finally over, Pin Liang stuffed Ming Yao and Yushu's phones back into their bags and walked out of the school alone. He didn't bring Xiaofu with him this time. There was no need. It'd be troublesome if Xiaofu got involved. Falbert's Bentley had been parked at the alley in front of the school for the past 3 years. Pin Liang remembered it very clearly. He found Falbert's Bentley easily. Pin Liang took a deep breath to calm himself down before knocking on the window. "What's up?" Falbert knew Pin Liang, as well as that he was the nephew of the company's previous shareholder, Jean Gubong. He was also Ming Yao's admirer. "Falbert, take me to Uncle Chu." Pin Liang ordered Falbert with an unquestionable tone. With that, he opened the passenger door and got in the car. "Oh, you want to see Mr. Chu?" Falbert frowned. He didn't expect Pin Liang to be this impolite, getting in the car directly. Even if Jean Gubong was a shareholder of the company, he didn't have the right to do this, did he? Not to mention that Jean Gubong wasn't. Falbert's sharp senses told him that something was amiss. If Pin Liang wasn't out of his mind, then he had something to rely on. So Falbert didn't chase him away right away. He wanted to know more about Pin Liang first. "That's right. This happened so suddenly. I have to talk to Uncle Chu face to face," Pin Liang said fearlessly. "Oh, then we'll wait for Yao Yao." You come with us. Faubert didn't say anything else after seeing how confident Pin Liang was. As for what he wanted to do, that was Mr. Chu's business. Faubert didn't have the right to ask. No need to wait. Yao Yao is at my house. Pin Liang said proudly. She's my girlfriend from now on. The most important thing for you now is to bring me to Uncle Chu. I need to talk to him about me and Yao Yao. Faubert paused. He looked at Pin Liang in disbelief. He started to suspect that Meng Yao had become Pin Liang's girlfriend. This was impossible in Faubert's eyes. Faubert took out his phone and dialed Meng Yao's number. However, her phone was turned off. He dialed Yushu's number again. It was the same. Faubert put down his phone and said, "Since you want to see Mr. Chu, then let's go." Chapter 542. Live-in son-in-law Faubert, naturally, didn't believe Pin Liang's words. From Faubert's point of view, Pin Liang was most likely making things up. His relationship with Meng Yao couldn't possibly be, as he said. But Meng Yao's phone was switched off, and Yushu couldn't be contacted. Pin Liang was the key person, and he had to control him. And so, Faubert quietly started the car and said to Pin Liang, "Mr. Chu is still in the company, but I need to make a call to confirm." "No problem. Go ahead." Pin Liang was sure that Faubert couldn't do anything to him, so he didn't care. So what if he notified Pingzhan in advance? He would see Pingzhan sooner or later anyway. Faubert nodded and dialed Pingzhan's number. Pingzhan's life had been smooth sailing for the past few days. Without Jean Gubong and Xie Guangbua, the company's second-largest shareholder, Lin Yi, had given Pingzhan full authority to make all the decisions. Whether it was the board of directors or the shareholders' meeting, everything had become Pingzhan's. No small shareholder dared to jump out and go against Pingzhan. After all, Jean Gubong and Xie Guangbua's fate was clear for all to see. No one wanted to be the next target. Pingzhan was in the middle of a shareholders' meeting, and no one dared to turn on their phones. Of course, Pingzhan himself was the only exception. No one dared to say anything. Pingzhan looked at the caller ID and picked up the phone. "Li Fu, what's up?" "I'm in the middle of a shareholders' meeting." "Mr. Chu, Mr. Zhong Pin Liang wants to see you." Faubert cut to the chase. "This should be in his hands." "What? Yao Yao is in Pin Liang's hands?" Pingzhan was stunned. He didn't expect Pin Liang to be so daring as to kidnap Meng Yao. Pingzhan had gotten used to his authority recently, and now that someone dared to kidnap his daughter, he was enraged. Faubert wanted to explain, but Pin Liang grabbed the phone from him. "Give me the phone, I'll talk to Uncle Chu." Faubert didn't insist and passed the phone to Pin Liang. In truth, Faubert didn't know what Pin Liang did to Meng Yao. "Uncle Chu, I'm Zhong Pin Liang." Pin Liang accepted the phone politely, trying to make his tone as respectful as possible. As far as he was concerned, Pingzhan was going to be his father-in-law soon. "Pin Liang, where's Yao Yao?" Pingzhan wasn't in the mood for small talk. His tone was cold. "Uncle Chu, Yao Yao has agreed to be my girlfriend. We just confirmed our relationship today. She is resting in my house now." Pin Liang said, "I was thinking about discussing our engagement with Uncle Chu. Yao Yao agreed to be your girlfriend?" Pingzhan frowned. "Come to my company now." Pingzhan didn't express his suspicions. Some things couldn't be explained over the phone. He needed to see Pin Liang first. He still hadn't figured out what Pin Liang was trying to do. "Okay, I'll be there now." Pin Liang saw that Pingzhan didn't suspect him right away, instead asking him to talk to the company. He thought that Pingzhan believed him and was overjoyed. He hung up and ordered Li Fu. "Did you hear that? Uncle Chu wants you to bring me to the company." "Okay." Faubert didn't say anything else. He put away his phone and turned the car towards Pingzhan Industries. Pin Liang was in a very good mood as he looked at Pingzhan's skyscraper. He was about to become Pingzhan's son-in-law, and Pingzhan didn't have a son. Did this mean that the family business would be his from now on? With that in mind, Pin Liang started calculating in his heart. When he saw Pingzhan later, he'd do whatever it took to convince him to accept him as his son-in-law. Peng Zhan was in the middle of a meeting when he heard that something had happened to his daughter. He ended the meeting quickly and returned to his office. In fact, Peng Zhan didn't really believe Pin Liang's words. His daughter would have fallen for Pin Liang a long time ago, if she could. She wouldn't have waited until now. Pin Liang's claim that Meng Yao had agreed to be his girlfriend was complete bullshit. But Peng Zhan was puzzled. Why would Faubert be messing around with Pin Liang? There could only be one reason. His daughter was missing. Faubert must have gone to pick up his daughter from school. He must have waited for Pin Liang because he didn't get his daughter. With that in mind, Peng Zhan gave Meng Yao and Yushu a call, confirming his suspicions after hearing that their phones had been turned off. Peng Zhan was calmer than usual after the company's turmoil, and as anxious as he was, he didn't let it show on his face. He sat quietly in front of his desk, waiting for Pin Liang to show up. After about half an hour, Faubert brought Pin Liang to Peng Zhan's office. "Hello, Uncle Chu." Pin Liang bowed to Peng Zhan as if he was a son-in-law visiting his home. "Pin Liang, have a seat." Peng Zhan gestured for Pin Liang to sit. He then turned to Faubert. "Pour some tea." "How can I trouble Faubert? I'll do it myself." Pin Liang was overjoyed. Was Peng Zhan accepting him? Otherwise, what kind of status did Fubo have? How could he let him pour tea for him personally? Pin Liang knew about Faubert's identity through his uncle. He was a man of authority in the company. He might only be a driver, but he was Peng Zhan's confidant. Normal employees wouldn't dare let Faubert pour tea for them. Faubert only worked for Peng Zhan and Meng Yao. Now that Peng Zhan was letting Faubert pour tea for him, did that mean that he was accepted by Peng Zhan as his son-in-law? Pin Liang thought excitedly. He hadn't even said anything yet, and Peng Zhan believed him already? "You kidnapped my daughter?" Peng Zhan's cold voice rang out in his head. "Wah!" Pin Liang was just about to take the cup of tea from Uncle Fu when he jumped in fright, dropping the teacup in his hand onto the floor, shattering into pieces. "Uncle Chu, don't say that. How could I possibly do something illegal like that?" Chapter 543. Two possibilities. She's resting in my house. "Didn't I tell you? Yao Yao and I are already in a relationship," Pin Liang said calmly. He knew that he couldn't lower his head. His plan would be ruined if he did. "Relationship? What relationship?" Peng Zhan asked. "It's a boyfriend and girlfriend relationship." Pin Liang tried to calm himself down. "Think about it. What relationship can there be? Then why is she in your house? Why didn't she come with you?" Peng Zhan didn't believe Pin Liang. She's tired and fell asleep. You know, girls usually have trouble moving around when they do it for the first time," Pin Liang said embarrassedly. First of all, she was embarrassed. Second of all, I was worried that she wouldn't be able to move around, so I let her sleep at home and rest. "Oh? Is that so?" Peng Zhan frowned. He didn't believe that his daughter would have a relationship with another guy so casually. Although his daughter had grown up, this kind of thing wasn't something that could be done so casually. Even if Meng Yao and Linny did it, Peng Zhan would still be suspicious, let alone Pin Liang, whom Meng Yao didn't like. Unless his daughter was confused. Wait, confused? Could it be that Pin Liang had done something? Peng Zhan was enraged at the thought. If this kid dared to do it, Peng Zhan would kill him even if he had to give up his family business. Pin Liang felt a little guilty when he saw the unfriendly look on Peng Zhan's face, but he didn't want to back down. "Uncle Chu, don't worry. Yao Yao's fine. She's just a little tired and fell asleep." "Then tell me, how did you two get together? What did my daughter promise you?" The more Peng Zhan looked at Pin Liang, the more he felt that something was wrong. He was someone who had been in the business world for many years. How could he not be observant? Not to mention a noob high school student like Pin Liang. Even those old foxes in the business world wouldn't be able to tell if something was wrong under Peng Zhan's observation. Hence, Peng Zhan felt that Pin Liang wasn't telling the truth. Of course, there were two kinds of lies. Peng Zhan wasn't sure which one it was. The good news was that his daughter was completely fine, and Pin Liang was just bluffing. The worst-case scenario was that half of what Pin Liang said was true. He really did do something to Meng Yao, but his methods weren't that glorious. "Uncle Chu, you also know that I have been pursuing Yao Yao. Wasn't he going to graduate soon? I thought that if I didn't confess now, I wouldn't have another chance." Pin Liang had already thought of an excuse, so when Ping Zhan asked, he went straight to the point. A couple of days ago, on the tree planting day, I prepared a show of my love for you guys that never sleeps. I used fireworks to form the words Yao Yao, I love you. That day, all the teachers and students were there. They could all bear witness. So, Yao Yao was touched. She accepted my confession and became my girlfriend. Really? Peng Zhan was starting to believe Pin Liang's words a little more after hearing his confession. Of course, he believed that Pin Liang had really made this confession, not that his daughter had accepted it. Of course, Yao Yao was so touched. Pin Liang said proudly, as the saying goes, sincerity can move mountains. I've been pursuing Yao Yao for 3 years. Even a girl would be touched. Oh, so you guys want to get a room today? Peng Zhan nodded and asked faintly. It's not getting a room, it's going to my house. Pin Liang nodded embarrassedly. Uncle Chu, I'm sure you've been around this age as well. Since Yao Yao and I are in a relationship, everything else should be in order. But don't worry, I'll take responsibility. Oh, Peng Zhan nodded. Just when Pin Liang thought that he had passed the test, he heard Peng Zhan's sudden question. Yao Yao want to get a room with you. Did Shu go too? This? Shu. Pin Liang's forehead was covered in sweat. Yes, Meng Yao went to get a room with him. But what was Yushu doing? Clearly, Peng Zhan had tried to contact Yushu, but he couldn't reach her. In his plan, Yushu wasn't included. He only wanted Meng Yao to follow him up the mountain and lock her up. Who would have thought that Meng Yao wouldn't tell Yushu to leave when he was talking to Meng Yao? Yushu, the curious girl, followed them up the mountain as well. Pin Liang had no choice but to imprison Yushu as well. Otherwise, what if Yushu went out and spread the news? At first, Pin Liang thought that it was just one more person. It wasn't a big deal, and it wouldn't affect his chances. But now that Peng Zhan asked, he realized that he was wrong. He was too naive. Since Peng Zhan couldn't find Meng Yao, naturally, the first person he thought of was Yushu. Since Yushu was missing as well, the lie he'd made earlier would fall apart on its own. He didn't need to bring Yushu with him to get a room with Meng Yao, and he couldn't bring someone else with him. Was he trying to kill 2 birds with 1 stone? Pin Liang thought about it, but he knew that it was impossible. Besides, he didn't have any feelings for Yushu, and he couldn't wait to avoid her. Killing 2 birds with 1 stone with her was suicide. What? Nothing to say? Did you not plan your lie well enough? Can't say anything now? Peng Zhan humphed coldly. How dare he show such a small trick in front of him? He was thinking too much of the business world. All right, since you can see through it, that's even better. I won't waste my time making up lies. Pin Liang didn't care anymore and decided to go all out. I've captured Yao Yao and Shu. But don't worry, I won't hurt Shu. I only like Meng Yao. What did you do to Yao Yao? Peng Zhan stood up abruptly. He didn't expect Pin Liang to be this bold, kidnapping Meng Yao and Yushu. Peng Zhan didn't know what Pin Liang did to his daughter. What? What else could it be? Pin Liang didn't have to be polite anymore, since he had already fallen out with Peng Zhan. He crossed his legs playfully. Boys and girls together, what do you think? Uncle Chu? Chapter 544. Chapter 544. Zhong Pin Liang, I've already done it. What's there to be afraid of? Pin Liang said calmly. Uncle Chu, since you already know, I'll be honest with you. You have to acknowledge me as your son-in-law. Even if you don't want to acknowledge me as your son-in-law. I've already done what I should, and I didn't use any contraceptive measures. I'm planning to give birth to this child. It's fine if you don't want to acknowledge me as your grandfather. My family can afford it. My father is more than happy to have a grandson or granddaughter with him. How dare you come to my office? Aren't you afraid that I'll send you to the police station? Peng Zhan couldn't tell if Pin Liang was telling the truth or not, but he was absolutely furious. He hadn't been this furious even when Gu Bong and Guangbo were trying to take over Peng Zhan Industries. He was sad and regretful at that time, but now he wanted to strangle Pin Liang to death. Haha, I don't think you would. Pin Liang shook his head. Uncle Chu, You're considered a respectable person in Songzhan, and Pengzhan Industries is one of the top 500 companies in the country. Uncle Chu's family matters have a lot of media attention. If you're not afraid of losing face, you should blow this matter up. Let's see who will benefit from it. At most, my crime is drugging and raping Mingyao, who took the aphrodisiac drug. At most, I'll give in half. Let's not talk about whether we can find any evidence. Even if we can, I'll only be sentenced to a few years. Oh, I forgot to tell you, Uncle Chu. My father and Sihua Bro are working for Master Bing now. Master Bing won't let me go to jail, right? Pengzhan naturally knew the name Master Bing. He also knew that the deal between Gubong and Sihua was for this Master Bing. The so-called Master Bing was the illegitimate son of the heir of a noble house. That house was very influential in the province, and Master Bing was quite capable as well. This was also the main reason why Pengzhan didn't retaliate after knowing who the mastermind behind the scheme was. Pengzhan couldn't even arm wrestle with Sihua, let alone fight against Master Bing. Pengzhan didn't want to have anything to do with people like that. He was a proper businessman, and he wasn't Sihua's opponent. What surprised Pengzhan was that Pinliang's father, Zhong Fabai, was working for Master Bing. What did Master Bing see in Fabai? Pengzhan's expression changed, and Pinliang knew that Pengzhan was afraid. He was overjoyed. I knew you were afraid. Thus, he continued to add fuel to the fire. Uncle Chu, you have to think carefully. I'll go to jail for a few years at most, but the jail is full of Sihua Bros people, and I'll be taken care of after I get in. I'm going to enjoy myself for a few years, and you're going to offend Sihua Bro. Most importantly, if you mess up Master Bing's plans, I don't have to tell you what the consequences will be. Whoever dares to hurt my daughter, I don't care who he is. I will make him pay the price. I'd rather give up this company. Pengzhan stared at Pinliang fiercely. He had his reservations, but he could do anything for his daughter. Why do you have to do this? I'm not a disgrace as a son-in-law. Since what's done is done, why don't we get engaged in a proper way? Pinliang said calmly. My dad isn't the boss of a nightclub anymore. Our family's background isn't any weaker than House Chu's. What do you think? What I said makes sense, right? You don't, Pengzhan said coldly. If you really do anything to Yao Yao, even with your background, I'll make you pay the price in blood. Don't think I'm joking. Why? Why do you have to do this? Pinliang didn't dare to look at Pengzhan's eyes, and he laughed dryly. You know, your daughter is already a broken flower. If this gets out of hand, it'll affect both your and Yao Yao's reputation. She doesn't have anything against me now, and if you understand the situation, I'll still respect you as my father-in-law. Otherwise, we'll continue to cause trouble. All right, I'd like to see who's going to protect you. Whether it's Master Bing or Sihua, they'll stand up for you. Pengzhan said slowly as he looked at Pinliang. Pinliang panicked. Why was this Pengzhan so stubborn? It was said that businessmen cared about profits the most. There were no eternal enemies, only profits. In this situation, he could only do what he said to achieve a win-win situation. Did Pengzhan really want to fight to the death? But he couldn't show it on the surface. Uncle Chu, are you really going to sue me? Let me think about this. You can go back first. Pengzhan didn't continue threatening Pinliang but waved his hand, indicating that he could leave. Pinliang was confused by Pengzhan's attitude. What did Pengzhan mean? Did he approve of him or not? Why did he want him to leave so suddenly? Pinliang knew that since Pengzhan had asked him to leave, he couldn't stay any longer. That would only make Pengzhan suspicious. He guessed that Pengzhan couldn't make up his mind right now. After all, everything happened so suddenly. Although he proposed a win-win situation, Pengzhan still had to weigh the pros and cons carefully. Was he going to fight to the death or accept him as his son-in-law? It was good that there was a chance. Pinliang sighed in relief after thinking it through. He said, All right, Uncle Chu, think about it carefully. If you want to send me to prison, then there's nothing I can do. Pengzhan didn't say anything, and Pinliang could only stand up bitterly. Pengzhan's attitude made it impossible for him to carry out the next step of his plan. His original plan was that if Pengzhan accepted him as his son-in-law, he'd go to the cave in Mount Shuangyan overnight and cook Mingyao. If Pingzhan didn't agree, he'd release Ming Yao. Nothing would really happen to Ming Yao this way, and he believed that Pingzhan wouldn't hold him responsible for anything. After all, Ming Yao was fine. If Pingzhan continued to pester her, then he'd be an idiot. Master Bing and Sihua weren't people to be messed with. This was why Pin Liang wasn't afraid. He was hesitant before, but after knowing the relationship between Sihua and Master Bing, he became bolder. You're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.